Look, I'm smiling. Yay! Happy 100. Happy
One,
100.
oh,
Welcome to In Class with Carr, episode 100. We are keeping it 100 here today.
yes.
Hi.
100. Hello, I am so happy to see you and to see everybody. But we made 100 in a row.
In a row. Yeah,
In
no,
a row. Y'all try that. Y'all
that's
try that. And
that's
no,
commitment.
we represent for we repeat for emphasis, but every one of our conversations has been unique, even though they all connect in one way or the other.
So I felt like I was with you yesterday at your mom's homegoing, which was beautiful. It was on YouTube. The link still out. You can still watch it. Amazing. Everyone in white, which is so antithetical to how we dress in black mourning clothes. Y'all all had on white. You looked beautiful. The Carr family singers sounded amazing.
My cousin Harold took it back 40 years. It's my man, the young bull. All them, Donnell, Francis, Mary. I started naming them Mike, Ethel. Those are the children of my father's brother who lived across the street. Virgil and Mary Green Carr, Ashe ancestors, block busted Paris Avenue, along with a few other pioneering black families. My cousin Ethel was one of the little black girls who integrated the Nashville public schools, and then we were between about a decade younger than them. So we came in. We're the shock troops of integration in the South, and then my father came on the block. My mother and father came on the block. And the white man that sold my mother and father the little house that we grew up in across the street from my cousins and my uncle and auntie, then the white man turned around and sold the house after he sold to my parents to a white man. And so my parents had to go get the legendary Z. Alexander Luby. Y'all look up Z. Alexander Luby, whose house was bombed in Nashville. In fact, he was good friends with and knew Jamie Williams and McDonald Williams when they were at Tennessee State. He was part of the Nashville student movement. He was the lawyer out of the Caribbean. So all this, we're ADOS, Americans Descendants of Slavery. Y'all can please take that. I love all of y'all. Please take that somewhere else with that foolishness. Luby came out the Caribbean. His young bull was a cat named Avon Williams. We talking about Avon Williams, who was the cousin of Thurgood Marshall, by the way. We talking about Avon Williams is sitting in the back of the church the other day. But anyway, I digress. The point is that my father went and got Mr. Luby. Luby went to court and made sure that sale didn't go through. And then the process continued until Paris Avenue and that whole community in South Nashville joining the other streets. And we talked about this extensively over Thanksgiving when I came back. It was a black community. Now it has been gentrified. The Pilgrims are back. And when my nephew Ellington picked me up at the airport on Wednesday, we went to the house and there was a little handwritten note on the door and said, "Oh, I'm your neighbor, so-and-so. I live down the street, wondering if you're interested in selling your house. Here's my number." And I said, "So, El, what you want to do?" We just started laughing because clearly you don't live down the street. You bought probably a property down the street that you flipped. And I told him, "Well, I'm going to savor. Your uncle's going to savor the joy in calling this number and having a nice conversation at the end, saying, well, you'd have to send that deposit to hell because that's where you will be at some point. But as long as you're on top of the earth, that's where you would have to transfer that cash because it will be a cold day there before you, in fact, get this plot of land back, brother." Click. So, at any rate, welcome to Nashville. Welcome to this set the state. But anyway, those were my uncle and auntie's children, my father's brother and sister-in-law, the Carr singers. Good, steady Church of Christ folk, which should tell you something if you know about denominations. As Jeremiah Wright preached, that third leg of the relay, we split into factions and denominations. But at the end of the day, look who's in the stands. We all come together on that. So I was grateful that you joined us, that so many others, over 1,000, have streamed and joined us, and that they, I hadn't seen anything. So I hadn't seen the chat. I just looked in the chat this morning as I was coming in. I just got in from Nashville, not even an hour ago, to sit down. And, the blessing of being an African person, there wasn't a way of knowing that wasn't represented yesterday. Nothing, you know, you think, well, what about the Muslims? Musa, one of the brothers on the drums, in fact, was, I mean, so it's
Yeah.
all there, and ain't gonna be no beef because, as you say, it reminded us with Frankie Beverly, and I put in the obituary, we are one. So thank you for that line as well, because it was in the front of my mind because of that.
And your mom, you know, to have her read her own obituary was so powerful. And I want to, you know, just because we're eventually in narrative going to have a space where we're going to teach people how to extract all of that goodness from our elders. But when I heard, I was like, we all should do our own. We should tell our own. We should
Hello,
tell our own life story so no one can get it twisted.
that's
That
right.
was out of her throat, out of her voice, out of her spirit, to let us know who she is.
That's right.
And
Shout out to my mother's namesake, my sister Gussie, who kept a tape recorder around my mother, particularly the last years of her
mm,
physical life. And she recorded most of that, almost all of it, in fact, on the 14th of January. That was 5 days before she made transition. And so my mother, in fact, one of the last phrases that she uttered before you heard my nephew, you heard Ellington say, I mean, right up until the moment when I spoke with her a few hours before, you know, making out the words as she lay there. But one of the last things she said is, as she narrated, and if you all hear that, and by the way, the one of the inspirations for that was Martin Luther King, of course, who gave his eulogy at Ebenezer Baptist Church. It's the small recording that we refer to as the drum major instinct. He said, at my funeral, tell them not to preach too long, tell them not to tell them where I went to school, just tell them I tried to stand up and help somebody. And so it's like, of course, is what you said. I mean, of course, let the ancestor speak. You know what I'm saying? If we believe, as my cousin Frankie Lane representing the Hayes side, all them Alabama Negroes, I was so glad to see all of them when they showed up rolling deep on Thursday night. I said, see, when y'all come around, I just feel like going and just like picking a fight. You know, that's them Southern Negroes. They just want to, and it's special shout out to Kennard, to my cousin Kennard, who is my uncle Thomas Hayes Jr., who's Thomas Hayes Sr., my granddaddy's son. This is his grandson, and all these cats now in their 40s and 50s. But Kennard went down to the no, I'm sorry, not I have so many doggone cousins. Kelvin went down to the home property and went to the church and got dirt from my grandmother and grandfather's graves, and also my uncle Doc, who was named from my grandfather's father, Doc, and all of his family, and brought it, and also brought a little piece of wood from the house my mother grew up in, so that I could put that with her, because her physical remains are in Tennessee, but she from Alabama, born on a pallet on the floor in Alabama. So we had to make sure all that. But I mean, shout out to them, because I love all of them Alabama Negroes. So
and you know, and all of that was so instructive for how we keep it together. You know, we created this space 2 years ago, almost 100 episodes now, as a safe place for us to come together to remember who we are
That's right.
and to put the pieces back together so that we can move forward and build the world we want to live in.
That's right.
And so watching that, and your mom wrote this down too. One of her last words was, "Greet them and tell them God is real."
That's what I was gonna say. You got to see. That was one of the last things she Say, I'm here at the door now. She was ushering people in. She said, y'all come, y'all go out the front. I'm gonna go out the side. Everything she was saying, and she said, greet them and tell them God is real. She's there. John Henry Clark said something very similar in his obituary, sitting there at Abyssinian Baptist Church in July 1998 at his transition. And his physical remains are buried near where my mother and father met in Columbus, Georgia, because he grew up. He's from right next door to where my mother is. In fact, a lot of my cousins, in fact, my brother, I say brother, we dropped the in-laws. You heard from Randy, my sister's husband, my brother. You know, they graduated from the same school John Henry Clark went to. So at any rate, Clark said in his obituary, "Oh, I see Christ coming." Now, John Henry Clark is a Pan-African nationalist like me, so Jesus can be swapped out with a million other names. Again, what you call a thing is not as important as we studied in the Miseducation of the Negro. But he said, "Oh, I see Christ approaching." He is in fact Black. so at any rate, I mean, so my mother, and of course now in my ear, I can't get out of my ear a song that we decided not to have, because again, it's a celebration, and so you got to really weigh that rhythm, because that blue note is very powerful. When you hear the funeral dirges of the Akan singers. In fact, I bought a copy of that famous tome, The Funeral Dirges of the Akan People, in the shadow of the British Museum in the year 2000. I was over there for a conference, and I'm scurrying through the bookstores of London, and I found a copy of the reprint of the Funeral Dirges. When you hear the blue note anywhere in the funeral ceremonies of African people, you have to be very careful in how you use it, because it can take you somewhere else. You heard a young brother who grew up with my brother, Jeff, Monterey Lee, who was a minister, who was the presiding minister yesterday, said, you know, I finished libation. He said, see, I was getting ready to run. I'll run in here, I'll sing in here. And that's always the case with our people. So you got to be careful how you calibrate the blue note. But my mother, with those last words, you know, God is real, tell them God is real, because I'm here in the thing now. I've moved, as my sister Gussie said, into that space. Well, you know, I in my mind, I kept hearing, yes, God is real. Oh, y'all know an old song. You had to get that. That's one of them old good ones. Yes, God is real. Yes, God is real. For I can feel him in my soul. Yes, God is real. See, when you start singing that, though, that may go on 10, 15 minutes, and then you never know. In fact, when they started singing that first hymn, I turned around to my cousin Mike, my cousin Ethel's husband. I said, Mike, you had to open the doors of the church, brother. These Negroes keep singing in this way, which is why I was grateful that when the Carr singers got up there, my cousin Donnell, who lives in Jersey, led in Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. So you put that in there. And of course, that was one of the songs of the Fifth Jubilee singers. A lot of Fiskites, a lot of Tennessee State folk in my family. My cousin Hugh they love that story about me reading the newspaper. I'm like, Lord have mercy. But at any rate, when they sang Swing Low Sweet Chariot, of course, Fifth Jubilee singers kind of popularized that in Europe as they sang through, among others. But then when Harold came back with Heaven is Just a Step Away, I'm like, come on, all right, that's close enough to the blue note. Because if you do too much, you know, the funeral gonna be over. You know what I'm saying? Because these Negroes will turn into something else. And here's what we weren't going to do as African people. And you heard Baba Umar Jute, who was the leader of the Underground Railroad formation, which elevated the 5 Queen Mothers that we wrote about. Sister Usuri and all of her sisters who joined my mother, Queen Mother Kathy Carr. When we say Queen Mother, it's not just a general honorific. You know, they were elevated to the status of Queen Mother in the 90s by Baba Umar and his family and the community in Nashville. But I set out to say that you heard him give a libation strictly in Yoruba that he then translated into English. And it's very important to understand, as our sister Yvonne Jones, who was present along with Ife Carruthers and so many others who watched out of Chicago, reminds us, it is Amun and Amunet, who, although unseen, are the source of all life, power, and health. But Amunet, that comes from the same word that the Muslims call Amin, and you know we say in English Amen. And so when you praying that at the end, I mean, it's a very important point to be made as a didactic. So finally, as you've said, in narrative, in general, in Nubia, the importance of listening to our elders, of recording, as Frankie Lane said, my cousin Frankie Lane, he said, you know, as he finished, he said, well, I guess that's saying, but I hear Auntie saying, I'll talk to you later, which she will. She can talk. But as Frankie Lane said, a very interesting Alabama, Georgia articulation of that concept of libation. He said, those who are after us physically, they can't talk directly to the ones who brought us here. My mother was the youngest of her siblings, and now she's with the rest of them in the ancestral world. And so when as Lane got up, my man Lane, and we call him Lane, Frankie Lane. It was Frankie on the program, Frankie Lane Davis. And you know, Lane said, you know, when I hear Lane, I know that's Auntie talking to me. And he said, the those came after us, they can't talk to the ancestors the way we talk to them. He said, I can, because I knew them here. And so they're in my soul, they're in my spirits. He said, but now these coming after us, they got to look at us. He said, that's why you got to stay on the straight and narrow. It was a beautiful articulation of that very real concept. We talked, I don't know how long, last year, when we talked about Hampate Ba, who we opened the obituary with. Hampate Ba, who talks about the Jolly. Of course, the Jolly, a word which literally translates as blood, when you start, not griot. Griot is a decent, I'm not even gonna say it's a decent word. Let's just take griot and give it back to the French. They have a social structure problem too. You take that. We're gonna take concepts from Africa. We're gonna do what Jacob Carr said, break the chain that link African ideas to European ideas, and just, talk to our ancestors without interpreters. We don't need an interpreter. So jolly means blood. Every ounce of blood, every atom in these physical bodies that we have comes from the two people that came together and gave life to us in these forms. And so the whole concept of jolly means, you are carrying on a physical tradition. And then the doma, an elevated form of jolly, got to say it correctly. So there were a lot of domas yesterday, a lot of bloodline domas, a lot of community domas. Shout out to our dear brother and sister, Jerome and Mary Morris, hardcore academics. Jerome now they're in St. Louis. Jerome is a professor there. He taught at the University of Georgia. He and my brother got befriended each other almost over 30 years ago. Who talked about how you heard him say, Ms. Carr saved my marriage. And then Mr. Carr, who my father, I got my gentleness of spirit, I think, from my father. But that whole, no, this is how it is, straight up and down. Either way, you gonna pick, but I'm gonna say what it is straight down the way I see it. That's my mom. And together, it was a very different, upbringing. But Jerome talked about that. So all those community, those are domas. Those are the highest form of jolly. And so, it's very, very important. And we're going to help people, because if you watch that or anything like it, we're not pioneers in this. There's a lot. I mean, all that, we see. But if in that moment, if that resonates, it's a powerful reminder that we have never forgotten and never stopped being who we are. But it's also an important reminder that for us, those of us who claim to want to be teachers, and my mom wanted to be a teacher, and she absolutely achieved it. She's a master teacher. You understand? As my nephew said, she didn't have a paper. That paper is of no relevance. That's why I don't have no respect for paper.
Well, you could see it in all of you. When Gussie got up there, I was like,
that's my mom, no question.
I was like, is everybody brilliant? Everybody, the grandchildren got up. I'm like, so there obviously there's something going on.
No, well, Africa, we do it. Oh yeah, and please, I'm so happy. And when my nephew said my mother was the queen of the one-liners, absolutely, you saw it in her granddaughter when Eden got up, because they called her Gussie all, because she looked just like my sister when she was she said, "My name is Eden, not Gussie." Now that that's out the way, let me give you my poem. But that, when I said we're not remarkable, what I meant was, we're all representative. So that resonates, in many ways, the fear of death is irrational. Even if you just want to be rational, you're agnostic or atheist, well, guess what? We all gonna die. So the idea of fear, I think, has more to do with, at least with the Western religions, certainly. And by the Western religions, I don't even mean they necessarily originated in the West. I mean, they were borrowed. There was a white couple there who looked in and took care of my mother, helped take care of my mother for years. And the guy is Catholic. And we were talking, and I said, well, one of the reasons why, because he was saying, I've never seen anything like this. And I said, well, you probably have, but you wouldn't have recognized it. I said, you Catholic, right? He said, yeah, it's okay. I said, a lot of the people who got brought into enslavement, most of our ancestors, less than 6% of us, who ended up in what is called this settler, this God-forsaken settler state, a mere lock. And back, let's just fix the hashtag now for all the gentrifiers I saw with the signs and the Black Lives Matter signs in all these formerly Black neighborhoods in Nashville. Y'all should fix that to abstract Black Lives Matter. Just fix it, okay? Because shout out to the paddle rollers representing the Minneapolis branch of Devils Incorporated, and wholly owned subsidiary of No Humans Involved Global, for the murder of Amir Locke. You murderers. But we know who you are. See, when you know who these people are, then you stop talking to them like you don't know who they are. We're gonna come to Jim Clyburn in a minute, who clearly didn't get the memo. But it's okay, Baba. I understand. I mean, you get to a certain point, you're thinking about legacy. And unlike those who, confuse ego and legacy, who confuse celebrity and legacy, you
Mm.
probably are looking at the former and not the latter. I mean, if you want an example of not confusing celebrity and ego with legacy, you probably want to look at my mama and millions of other Black women whose names you don't remember because they didn't run for office. They didn't try to get a contract. They didn't go singing bucka dance to get. They didn't recognize. They didn't recommend in this HR 301 that I just read that that lift every voice and sing become the national hymn, because there is no nation, there is no we, Congressman Clyburn. And I'll tell you what, though, as an elected official, perhaps you could get after them patter-rollers in Minneapolis who seem to think they can knock on random ass doors and then bust in on a brother who had a gun because he's a DoorDash delivery man, and then when he's trying to defend himself, kill him. Patter-rollers in Minnesota, understand, the only time you're gonna stop is when we stop you. If you kick in a door and get your head blown off about 3-4 times, you might think twice. Crying Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The tears, bro, I know the tears probably got you reelected, but let's just pause and understand that you told them no more no knock warrants, and they told you on tape, we're hunters, it's what we do. So here's the thing, the hunters will stop hunting when the hunted decide they're gonna turn around and hunt themselves. See, I better go read some damn Ida B. Wells. But anyway, let me walk that all the way back to the point I was trying to make, which is in that moment, when we think about where we are and where we live, the ritual that we represent, we kind of, went through yesterday, and this whole moment of transition is a reminder that we all gonna die. And as I was standing there yesterday at the repast talking to this cat, and he was saying, I've never seen it. I said, well, you Catholic though. I said, the Africans who were enslaved in this hemisphere, most of us came to the Caribbean first. Only about less than 6% came directly to what is now the United States of America, this wholly owned subsidiary of no humans involved. Our ancestors were enslaved by the Spanish and by the French, the Dutch and others, but the Spanish and French Catholic. I said, so what the Africans did was they then hid their ways of knowing up under the Catholic saints. Why? Because Catholicism is very flexible. I said, that's why it's intriguing. He said, oh, I said, yeah, in Catholicism, you can pray directly to God, or better yet, since y'all in Europe turned it into a transactional practice. You pray to the priest, who then goes to God on your behalf. They turn everything into a hustle. But you got all these other representatives of the divine. You got somebody for the homeless. You got somebody for the people who ain't got no money. You got Saint. I love Saint Francis of Assisi. Francis of Assisi is humility. I'm saying, so but I'm saying, looking at all those, the Africans was like, okay. I said, so when you see the Virgin Mary, when you see Saint Patrick, when you see him driving the snakes out of Ireland, that's Dambala, that's Vodun. And they looking at you and you think that's just a regular old white picture, and they're like, yeah, okay. They go Oshun, Yemaya. But y'all don't need to know them names, because in order for us to do this, y'all gonna have to think we talking about what you talking about. And so he just kind of laughed. He's like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. So that's all right. That's why you got to have teachers, which is the point of having a narrative, having a Nubia, which is for us to recognize that we are still doing our culture. We've adapted it, we've changed it, we've moved them around. But when you can sit back and see the pieces, then you recognize that we never stopped being Africans, even as we added all these other identities. And some of that, I hope, was being offered in the form of, as the Egyptians would call it, a sebait, a teaching yesterday, because my mother was and is a teacher. So
when we're going to get to Amir Locke, we're going to get to Jim Clyburn, Lift Every Voice, we're going to get to all that. But we wouldn't be here today without a woman who came to my radio show, it was like 4 years ago. Yes. And she brought a congressperson with her because she was battling behind the scenes, some unseen people that you don't know. You may not know their names, but they make things happen.
Yes.
And she fought to get the Crown Act passed in New York, and now it's passed in so many other states, which allows for Black people, basically, but people to wear their hair however they want and not be discriminated against and not lose their jobs. She's done so much that we can spend all day talking about this woman. But she brought you to my show. After that, she came on several times, and I mentioned it, and then she brought you to my show. I'll never forget it. Veterans Day, you came in, and I was like, where's this man been all my life? So we're going to celebrate 100. We wouldn't have won if
We
this
would not
woman
have
didn't
one.
have the vision to bring you
What,
onto the show.
you
So I'm
got
gonna
her?
bring her in. I'm bringing in Adjoa Asomoah, my
Whoa!
sister.
That's,
Welcome.
yes, that's my sister, and of course my leader. She's the one that makes it happen.
I am not
Yes,
sure that
yes, you
I
are. Yes, you are.
qualify for being your leader.
Yes,
Um,
we'll talk offline about Jim Clyburn. Please pull his coat. Anyway, that's not a song for other people. So hey, I'm not gonna do that. Adjoa, hey, what's going
What's
on?
up? I respect my elders, so I will leave that there. Thank you so much
Me
for
too, me
having
too. That's
me.
why I'm gonna say less. Yes.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Karen, to surprise Greg.
I am thoroughly surprised.
You should be. I don't pop up often, but I definitely had to be here today because, in my view, today is one of celebration. And not just the show, although, of course, that, but of first, just being your mother. We talk about this concept of Ubuntu, and we often hear people say, I am because you are. But when it comes to me and you, that is not figurative. That is a very literal translation.
In fact, Adjoa, tell them how we met. That'll help people understand how this works.
So I was, oh gosh,
You ain't gonna date yourself. You ain't put no date down. I know y'all see this baby face and think she's 25, 30 years old. I'm just gonna say less on that, but go ahead.
I was literally an 18-year-old, a little bit rough around the edges. Still am. And my first day of undergrad, my father, who is your colleague, our dad, of course, who also now is a retired Africana Studies and Political Science professor.
That's right.
My first day on campus, I was a baby in the department.
Yes. Big up Ghana. You got to shout out Ghana. I'm surprised you didn't shout out your homies.
I'm always going to rep Ghana. Don't get
okay, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you're a Ghanaian. I mean, you are too.
I am a stone cold Black Star today and always. So that goes without saying.
By way of the East Coast, though, so y'all don't get it twisted.
I was born here in the continental U.S., but I of course represent, where you're born and where you're from, two different things. So I always represent Ghana. But my father, who I adore and has contributed so much to the discipline.
No question.
As a leading authority on Kwame Nkrumah's work. My father.
Kwame Asomoah, by the way. So y'all look him up.
He walked me over to Greg. Literally, I was 18 years old on campus, and he walked me over to Greg and said, follow him, and you will never go wrong. That is literal. That is not just
heavy responsibility to say something like that. Now I can't mess up. You understand
what
that was? He was talking to me while he was talking to you.
Indeed. And so for my father, who has never entrusted anybody other than my mother with me, to be able to say
your mom,
that was
no question
a directive for me. It has held true for these decades. We will not tell my age, but we'll just say decades.
Just understand that when young people come to me now, one of our loyal Nubians who's actually on her way with her husband to Nigeria for the transition rights of her brother, who was a Nollywood star, King Black, and I'm talking about Aya Fubara Anelli. Her brother Caribbean rises an ancestor now. But when her daughter, who is now I guess she's got enough hours to be a junior at Howard, but by age, she's a freshman at Howard. When she expressed the interest, I said, no, because given her intellect, given her parents kind of, formation there, cultural formation there. And there, I said, there's only one person that I could direct you to. So this young sister, Kosi, became the next of many that I have said, you got to talk to Adjoa. And you always drop everything. She came to campus in the middle of COVID, gave them a tour, sat and talked, put the connection. That's what Adjoa does. Oh, in addition to making sure that the way your hair came out of your scalp when you came out of your mother's womb can't be held against you, because she is the center of the Crown Act legislation that's being passed all over the country now. This is the one. You looking at her. That's why her and Karen were together in the first place. And then, of course, I only take full direction in terms of not questioning it, even though I might grumble about some things, from a handful of people. Y'all looking at one. So she said, I need you. This is when I hear I need you. It's like my cousin Lane said it about my mama. When he hear Lane in her ear, in his ear, he know that's her. When Adjoa says, I need you too, I just, okay. I need you to get on a train with me, because you going with me to Karen Hunter show. And I didn't even, okay, all right. Let's go. So anyway, yeah, but that started with your father. This is the point, and
It did start with my dad, and our baby over at Howard. I just sent her in alignment with who you've been to me. Not that I can ever be that to anybody else, but I just sent her 2 days ago, I think, a link for an internship because she has an interest in politics, and so I want to make sure that she gets the experience. So I sent her links to a paid internship in this space to ensure that I am doing the same thing, or at least trying to do the same thing for other people that you do. But I am only here very briefly, and I just wanted to come up here and share that I am celebrating not just this episode, but I really am celebrating your mother. And if the folks had a chance to participate in the ritual yesterday, even if virtually, when we say I am because you are, that and thinking about that ceremony yesterday, that was evident that Queen Mother Carr is just that. Like, I am because she is, and not just because she gave birth to you and Gussie and Jeff, but essentially to all of us by way of you. So I wanted to make sure that I came on to acknowledge Mom and to acknowledge this amazing gift to our community that has become this in class. With Carr, you always try to give me credit, but it does not belong to me.
That's right.
It doesn't. It does not belong to me, but I wanted to come up here and say, I don't share you with everybody.
No. Well, really, nobody.
Nobody, really.
Y'all, that includes the President of the United States. I shook Joe Biden's hand and put a word in his ear about some stuff we need to be doing for Black people. But the only reason I was in that room because Adjoa said, you need to come with me. To go to. And I don't take, she don't take direction from nobody.
Not too often.
Well, maybe Marsha Fudge and them, but I'm surprised you ain't saying nothing about the Deltas. But I'm gonna say less because them Deltas.
I do listen to her. Now that goes without saying. There are very few people who can tell me to do something, and I even think about saying no to. She is one of those people who I do listen to. I respect her considerably, obviously. I acknowledge being the legislative strategist behind the Crown Act, and I lead this movement on behalf of the Crown Coalition that I co-created with AC and Kelly and Orlena. But it is Marsha Fudge, then Congresswoman, then CBC Chair Marsha Fudge, who first took action as a legislator when it comes to this issue of race-based hair discrimination. It was during her tenure as chair of the Congressional Black Caucus that she penned a letter signed by her colleagues to essentially call out the inherent racial and gender bias that was included in this proposed ban on certain hairstyles. So I always acknowledge her for her leadership and all that she does, much of it, which folks don't know if you're not a complete policy nerd, but that's a bad sister. I am proud to call her both my past national president and now Madam Secretary. Her leadership is solely servant, and she does so with distinction. But I won't go too much into that. Although I did get a message, Greg, you are being called. I got a text this morning from one of the deans of the college in Nebraska about you, and she sent me a picture. I will show it to you. She sent me a picture of the two of you from Delta Days, and she is calling.
Oh yeah, when everybody was here, you said
that's you.
Oh, of course.
She is calling for you to come and do something there. So I'll have to
I got
do that separately. But that is my life all the time.
All the time. Yeah. I got to do it.
People might know what I'm doing, but don't get this confused. I am 100% natural.
Oh no,
hair curly one day, twisted the next day, blown out the last day. But
my niece had an afro, and I'm like, child, you should just do that. But she was in the South, and she had to balance it. She went and got that same thing you got right now. And tomorrow, after the rain, it'll be looking like Angela Davis again. So
I rock that too. Done an afro, braids, twists, and it'll be curly on next Thursday. So it's the versatility of Black hair that I am certainly working to celebrate and make sure that nobody can discriminate legally against us based on the way our hair grows out our head. So Karen, I am passing the mic back to you. This is your show. I just want to come on and shout y'all out and say thank you for what you've created. I do not share my Greg. If you know me, I do not share that man. But this work is so critically important that what he has in his head is something that is a gift to the world, and the world needs to know about it. So I am in support.
And I couldn't have this today without you. And also, this is a demonstration about how mentorship and handed batons and how community work. This is how it works. You know, you bring your brick, and Greg brings the capstone. I'll give the platform. You know, we all can together. We have to work together to get to the place. And the things you do behind the scenes, unseen, what'd you say? Amen, the thing you cannot.
That's right. It was the
Adjoa
hidden one.
That it's the thing you don't see, but it gets it done. All of the little levers and the strings that you pull. It's not about the celebrity, you know. It's not about being seen. It's about the work that we do here. And I'm so grateful to you, Adjoa, for trusting me.
That's what it takes for this one. And for me, I'm so protective.
It's definitely trust. That's all that was.
It has to be trust. Absolutely. So y'all continue to educate the world. Thank you for letting me pop in to come and give my congratulatory messages and to wish you all the best as you continue to educate the world.
Thank you. Love you, Adjoa.
Love y'all back.
Love you, babe.
All right, so we're gonna have people pop in, but I want, still 100. And you, I asked you off mic rituals. How did Africans celebrate? Because I struggle with this. I'm like, all right, 100, we'll just do what we've been doing.
Yeah.
Keep going. And you're like, no, we invented milestones, and
sure.
and I was struggling what to do, what's special about 100. But the great thing about this is a long journey that we're on, and we're just at the beginning. We may be at 100 episodes of In Class with Carr, but the work is going to be on for years and years, hopefully.
That's right.
While we're here,
the work, in fact, has really the work continues uninterrupted. I was looking for, I've gotten better over the years. It used to be I would pack a small library anytime I travel for over a day, but I got on the plane with very few books this time. But the problem is I have to remember when I come back to home base, don't unpack your bag, because whatever you were scribbling on, you stuck in the pages of the books you had in that bag. And if I take the books out before then, now I'm in trouble. But I hadn't done it this morning, so I had a couple of notes about that. I mean, I'll never forget, Karen, that Veterans Day weekend, because in fact, Adjoa kept, telling me, you gotta come here. I said, okay. I said, but I teach. And this is before COVID, and so my encumbrances were very much connected, like many of us, to physically moving. I mean, if I had kept that schedule up, I don't know how I could have sustained it. I mean, because back and forth, and then running from here to there, doing this and that, getting on and off trains, planes, automobiles, buses, and cars, in and out cars, running. It was. I'm not going to say unsustainable, because y'all heard my brother Randy yesterday talk about my mom. My brother played in the National Football League for enough years, qualified for a pension. He was in there 5-6 years. And of course, he was in a skill position. He was a defensive back, so he wasn't on the line. So he didn't have those, but he had some pretty brutal hits over the years between the Steelers and the Falcons and the Seahawks and all the teams he played for, right? The major teams, particularly Pittsburgh. But I said all that to say that my brother yesterday said, Mama Carr was tougher than any athlete I ever played with or against. She tougher than any out of ball players. And so I'll say that I won't say that it was unsustainable, because we all know people who have done far less. And as some old folks used to joke, say, oh, you're a teacher. Okay, let me see your hands. Your hands ain't rough enough. That ain't real work. I took that as a compliment. Stand up at Kane Avenue Baptist Church on Thursday evening with the elders who are still around, almost all of whom are juniors to my mother. My mother completes, I think, the set of ancestors who on the mother's board, with one exception. I got to see Sister Inslee yesterday, but remembering the old days, Deacon Overton, who was a young man, he and my father are very close. They have the same kind of spirit. How that works. We talk about mentoring, but I love the word that comes out of East Africa, the Amharic, that Asa Hilliard introduced us to here. And then we began to explore that, the Jegna, the whole, the Jegna, a person who has insight, who is fearless, who has the capacity to inspire that and help others model it. And Deacon Overton, remembering when he was the youngest deacon on the deacon's board, he was the secretary. Y'all know the black church. So I guess they were in a meeting and he spoke up to say something. And when the old heads looked around and said, no, you don't talk, you take notes. And my daddy had to intervene at some point and say, man, look, we all deacons. So we're going to have this conversation. But I bring that up to say that in this process of learning and teaching, when we started this, we were at a very different moment. And when we came up to see you, well, you were Adjoa, she was coming up regularly with you anyway. And then she said, bring me along. The day I could get away from that back and forth all the time was Veterans Day, because it was federal holiday. We didn't go in. It was a Monday. Normally I'll teach on Mondays and Wednesdays at the law school, Monday, Wednesday nights, but it was closed. Okay, so I can get on train that day. Now, I said I'll just say this. Fast forward to where we are now, 100 episodes into the in class, which begins because the pandemic shut the world down and we could focus for a moment. It's a very, we cannot understate the importance of sitting in what has been going on the last 2 years and thinking about what it means to be able to focus and recognize we have the capacity to focus anytime we want. Again, they had an update on the iPhones. I ain't buying nothing new until I have to. So I was looking for the do not disturb on my phone because it's always on. You call me, it goes right to the, you got to text me where I'm not. And even then, I won't see it when I got so many texts. So my nephew takes the phone, my niece, and you, of course, let them, here it is. Okay. Oh, that's why I couldn't find it. Because the word that leads you to the do not disturb button on the iPhone now, even the ones older like mine who would still upgrade the software, the word is focus. I said, I love it. So, of course, when you read the biographies of Steve Jobs, or you hear the Walter Isaacson's books, so many others about Steve Jobs, Jobs, really a lot of what emerged as the Apple quote unquote brand came from Jobs not engaging the sciences in school. Because Jobs was not white American. He comes out of the so-called Middle East, right? But yeah, exactly. And if you've seen Arabic, you understand what I'm about to say. He was fascinated. In fact, if I remember correctly from Isaacson's biography, he took a calligraphy class. And of course, Arabic, you think about the Arabic language, but then you also see, I think Syrian, or y'all can look at it, but you see that. But he said, I took this calligraphy class, which it means mind through fingers onto the pen, into the writing. And he says, the elegance of form in a line, how to flatten the line a little, how to narrow it. If you know Chinese or Korean or Arabic, if you understand meta nature, you'll understand the importance of the swipe. Well, the Akan, Adinkra symbol, because Adjoa's people are tree speakers. She's Shanti girl. Well, father, I mean, she's definitely Ghanaian, black. They don't make the ethnic distinction, but the symbol systems. If you get Inscribing Meaning, which is a brilliant exhibition catalog, Mary Neuter Roberts was one of the co-editors. I was trying to think of the other co-editors. Smithsonian Museum of African Art did a whole exhibition on writing systems and graphic systems in Africa, inscription systems. You see that. Well, anyway, long story short, Jobs took that class and was hooked with the idea of elegance, simplicity, and what he would call intuitiveness. That's what drives Apple. That's why whether the other platforms, Google, whatever, may be more efficient in terms of technology or still good, a lot of people get hooked on the Apple because of, I just like the way that's very deliberate. And it wasn't from the sciences. It was the notion of the arts. It was the notion of, people say, well, what are we doing with the arts? How's this class going to help me? I just gave you an example. But that's why I couldn't find the button. And when I see it said focus, I just started laughing because that is the gift we can give ourselves. We talked about Thich Nhat Hanh, and who made transition a couple of weeks ago. And the brothers in the beloved community, he and Mark Andrews' book, he and Martin Luther King knew each other. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about that a lot today, but I'm just going to mention that, the question of being in the now, being present, focusing, the fact that we are going to die, guess what? That's guaranteed. So why are you thinking about it now? You know what I'm saying? You think about my mother literally before the last breaths in that shell that we refer back to the earth as she continues, literally in the last breaths of that said, oh yeah, and tell them God is real. In other words, this is a thing you experience in the moment. So if you say, I don't believe in God, do you believe in life? Well, you don't have to believe in life because you're alive. And when you're dead, you're going to be dead. So in this moment, focus. Well, when the world shut down, Karen Hunter, we're talking, and she said, you know what? I didn't say it yesterday because, again, we had to do a lot of other things. And I believe, as Shegun Badageshan, my dear friend, Baba Shegun Badageshan, who was the dean at Howard University, College of Arts and Sciences, and a colleague, a philosopher by training, but a Yoruba by birth and training. He reminded me one time, he said, we came out of a meeting and he said, it reminds me of something that the Yoruba people say. In order to say something, you don't have to use up all the words in your mouth or all the spit in your mouth or all of it. No, you don't have to say everything you know all the time. But the idea that what I would have said yesterday, but I realized you don't have to say a whole lot because everybody's saying something. And this is the whole point. We all are coming. And it ain't even about us. It's about her and that conduit, this master teacher, this Queen Mother. One thing that was on my mind to say, and I'm glad I didn't say it, but I'll say it now, is that I always wanted to know what was on my mother's mind all the time. And of course, you don't rehearse things at funerals. You shouldn't. Anyway, when I heard Lane say, I want to be like Auntie, she always wanted to know. We always want to know. That wanting to know, I always want to know too. I just want to know. Why wait? No, I want to know. I just want to know because this don't make no sense. And I know there's a way for it to make better sense than it does right now. Because this right here, this is, so, but part of that knowing process is being still. And in those early days, as I said, I would always want to know what my mother was thinking. I got to the point where I could see the looks on her face. You had to pay real close attention, but in that moment when you, Karen, said, you know what? I'm just gonna press this button, record. I said, no, we're talking about how to be well, so never forget. And then you took the file, and put it on YouTube, and the world can see. I wish I could, because I've gone and looked at it again, and it's still. And I'm gonna ask you this question right now. Now it occurs to me, and we're gonna continue talking about what I was talking about, but this is part of it. Just like with my mom, but we're siblings. I mean, now among many other things. So I'm looking at you like I'm saying, what was on your mind in that moment when you said, you know what, you mind if I press record? Because we wouldn't be sitting here now. That direct moment is what opened every narrative. Nubia in class. What was it?
I had done. I had just read Southern Horrors and did an introduction for it because I had created another platform. And I was doing this work, right? So it was Nanny Helen Burroughs. I was just trying to unearth all of these people. I think that was a 20-minute conversation. In those 20 minutes, I learned more than I had learned in my entire life about somebody I had just read about, studied, extracted, thought I could write something. And I was like, and we were just having a conversation. And everyone needs to know this. Why don't we know this? And then I'm like, what else do you know? So in that moment, I'm like, I think he knows everything. So I'm going to, every time we come together, ask a lot of questions because this is what I've been trained to do. And hopefully start to put this thing together that I have been ruminating on for the last 10 years. Like, how do we, the same questions you have, how do we get here? And how do we not be here anymore? How do we get here? And how do we conquer and dominate this craziness that we're in? Because I know we have it in us. And I know we've done it before. So let's put the thing back together because I just think we have amnesia globally, collectively.
Yes, we do.
And if we can just start tapping on people, hit them in the medulla or whatever the hell it is that we're making something, perhaps we won't be here in this place of not just uncertainty, inhumanity, just dread, like hopelessness. And maybe, we can have the kind of world we want to live in because I want to be happy. Yes. So, so it starts with us. So that was what I was thinking in that moment. What else do you know? And can we keep doing this? Can I hit record? People got to hear this. That's why everyone's got to hear this. Let me just hit record and we see what happens.
What a blessing. That makes so much sense. And it also lets us know that our instincts, that voice within, as my cousin Lane was saying yesterday, that piece of those who who came before us deposited in us that we can't take out because we didn't put in. Because over these years now, as you've talked, with me and shared with the various formations beyond classrooms and audiences. Again, audience is a very, very sterile concept in some ways. I mean, I think about William Clark, Academic Charisma and the Origins of the Modern Research University, or James Brundage, The Origins of the Medieval Legal Profession. I'm talking about Europe, of course, because there's nothing in the world but Europe. Talk about this notion of where we think about the classroom and the concept of a lecturer and people listening, the concept of examinations, even the architecture of the European learning formations, very distinct from circles, very distinct from group conversations, where everybody has an expertise in being themselves, and how a teacher should be able to enter that conversation as a listener and transform. But listening to you, and hearing you talk about and then apply lessons from your family, your father in particular, it resonates that individual moment of inspiration, which is one in sequence with a great deal of other ones, where you talk about the urban network with Sirius XM, where you talk about your written work, your work as a journalist preceding all that other work, the hub, all of these variations. Always, people will say all the time, we need to get together, we need to build together. And then there are people who do it. And of course, we know that doing it is the demonstration of whether you mean it or not. What Marimba Ani would call the rhetorical ethic is very Western. In other words, you said it and then had no intention to do it. In fact, if you read James Brundage's book, Medieval Origins of the Western Legal Profession, one of the things he says is they introduced oaths in medieval Europe in the 12th and 13th century as they are reforming the notion of the law to borrow from Roman canonical law to mix it with the kind of indigenous law traditions of the various formations that will come together as Europe at some point, and then have this overlay of the church that they're borrowing the structure from. He says one of the things they borrow from the church is the oath. That's why you swear on something before you testify. That's why you have to take an oath before you are admitted to the bar. He says, but one of the things is you would see lawyers in this early European tradition who, having taken their oaths, if they violated the oaths, there was no consequence, really. There was no punishment, really. And I just chuckled as I read that. And, I talk about sometimes my students at Howard Law, because I have them read from this book, a couple of pieces from different chapters of this almost 400-page book. And, Marimba Ani, Professor Ani, one of our Jegnas, is on my dissertation committee, in fact. And I say that because I'm very proud of the fact that in a Western social structure, in a Western academic institution like Temple University, where Adjoa was an undergrad when I was a graduate student, after I come from Ohio, from Tennessee to Ohio to Philadelphia. I'm very proud of the fact that the committee that signed their names on the paper that gave me that PhD, that academic licensure, were Africans, and not Africans who, kind of get cute with it. No. Ella Forbes, Nate Norman, who was at the ceremony yesterday, because he and my mother were close, and all of us love Pop Norman and Mom Norman, who retired from Temple, moved to Atlanta, and now works full-time as the writing director at Morehouse, because he always wanted to work at a Black college. And even at this point, by the way, they're right now in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Mama Rose, his wife, their brother-in-law made transition. And so, but Mom went straight there and called, but then Pop, as we call him, Pop, and Dan Black, my man, Dr. Daniel Black, the author of The Coming, one of the greatest writers of our moment. Trust me on that. In fact, his latest book, Don't Cry for Me, was just published, and I think it's in the Book of the Month Club, something like that, which is now just, to me, the social structure recognizing what we've known all along. Get his book, The Coming, if you really want to get something about the notion of what enslavement tried to do to us and failed to do. But they came from Atlanta, and Black brought the libation vessel and bowl that I used yesterday. And he did that because he would do that anyway. In fact, one of his sons is, talk about how these things work. One of his sons is, of course, Cedric Miles, who was in Ndugu and Nzinga, which is the rites of passage formation that Dan started decades ago when he came out of Clark Atlanta University and then went back to teach there. But He did that because he would do it anyway, but he also very specifically did it because when we talked, Carr said, Dan, I'm gonna put libation for my mom, but I want to do it with something that comes from the hand of the many who didn't come out of her womb, but who came and said, I got you. So him and Pop came from Atlanta. They was coming anyway. I'm just saying all to say that this notion then of this network that we have, these deliberate acts, the inspiration that led you into all the work you've done, including now saying, can I press record? I mean, that happens as our individual choices, as choices of our network, but it is abetted, supported, it is surrounded by and made ultimately powerful by those things we can't see. And so in this moment, for me, in retrospect, all of that capacity that was channeled into that act happening when it did at near the beginning of a global pandemic that had us all indoors, that dovetailed with, you know, as I've said many times, I'm standing outside at my car across the street from Howard Library, the last day Howard had classes, and I said, we're going to jailbreak the Black University. We just got to figure out how to do it. And then I didn't even get in the car. I made a little video, posted on Twitter, and then went across the street to Sankofa and sat with them and said, look, I'm going to finish my classes and put them on Blackboard for students, but I want to create a YouTube space where I can just do these final lectures. And so we got you. And so they loaded all those last lectures for that semester, spring 2020, on the YouTube channel. And I sent the links to the students through Blackboard, because I do believe that jailbreaking means creating spaces where we are no longer beholden to any institution that can be compromised easily by social structures who have never meant anything for us except how does this plug into what we doing? That's what Carter G. Woodson was talking about in Miseducation of Negroes we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, so we did that. They got me through the semester. And then we were talking about how do we create this? Now that we have this going, how do we bridge the format? And then this brilliant sister, this brilliant African out of Jersey says, can I press record? And the rest is hit narrative, Nubia, the hub coming in this thing, all these folk coming, all these new classes that are coming in, those formations. But in that initial burst, that first year or so, particularly through that summer and into the fall, as we were literally forced to focus, we began to, all of us, I think, began to discover for some, and sit with, because we were forced to sit with, the power we walk around with every day. The power that we walk around every day. Let's say that you believe that once your body stop working, once you die, that's it. Okay. So let's say then you would call God whatever that animation, that ashe, as Baba Umar and I both talked about yesterday, whatever that ashe is that begins with after you come out of your mother's womb, or while you're in your mother's womb, and then ends with you dying. That's it. Well, if that's the case, then the ashe is right there. So if you're going to say, yes, God is real, for I can feel him in my soul, ignore the gendered language. Ignore the even concept of Christianity, which is a fear-based religion, as is Islam, as is Judaism, because they have been interpreted in many ways almost like hanging a sword over you and saying, if you don't do this, you will cease to exist. Again, thinking about Michael Gomez's book, which Exchanging Our Country Marks, the idea that if you don't say Mother May I, you won't go to heaven. So therefore, I am terrified. I'm driven by fear to ask a simple question. What must I do to be saved? Well, step back from that for a moment and look at it the way somebody would look at it that says, when you're born, when you die, and that's it. Okay, well then while you're here, focus. And if you focus, again, this is the transcendentalist. I mean, this is the so-called East, all these directions meaningless really, but think about Thich Nhat Hanh and them saying, if you just, in that moment, you can bring it back in a split second. But imagine months of that. And that was the momentum that allowed in class to breathe. And we're sitting here on Saturdays. Ain't nobody going nowhere. Hell, I'm worried about toilet paper. Well, I ain't worried about toilet paper. I gotta get something to eat. Well, I ain't worried about something to eat. I gotta okay, the computer works. Okay, I don't have a computer works. Okay, well, I got my phone works. Okay, well, let me just tune in. Oh, this is interesting conversation. Here I'm and then okay, we need a platform where we can keep this going in a way beyond the capacity to intervene. So let's create this space. And then now this is going on parts in your mind, right? Because I'm trying to read you. Right? I'm not trying to read it. I'm here. We working all together. We all bring our stuff. He said, okay, narrative. Boom. Okay, now we got this thing. Nubia. Why? Because we need to talk to each other and have the ability. And then, I'm sitting there saying, now what happens finally is this. I said fast forward, but we started there on Veterans Day. This is before COVID. Come forward now. Wait, one stop. Veterans Day. It was in 2019 when it came. Me and Aj came up there.
Yep.
Aj brought me up there, right?
Yep.
So then the next time I came, I got on a train and came to see you February. Did Black History Month. And then we sat in the lobby afterwards, Sirius XM, chopped it up. It's beautiful. We had conversation about Carr G. Woodson. We sitting there, continued the conversation, right? And then that's 2020, February. I go back, now, in fact, I was going to get on the train, come back to DC. And you were like, you want me to give you a ride with us? And no, I'm good. I love the train. I love New York. I just love being around people in that context, particularly anonymity, because now I can just listen. If I encounter somebody, we have a conversation. I ain't got to worry about who they think I am, who I think they are. No, we just, and you just learn. You listen, right? Sajim in the ancient Egyptian. You listening. You're enjoying life. The Egyptians would say, live your life, as Dr. Obenga would say. Another member of my committee with Marimba Ani and Jacob Carruthers and Nate Norman, Pop Norman and Ella Forbes. I mean, that Black committee that made the provost at Temple cancel all her afternoon meetings and walk over to the hall where we were defending our dissertations, myself, Mario Beatty, and Valethia Watkins, because the word got out that there were several hundred Black people in an auditorium with 3 dissertation defenses scheduled, and they'd seen nothing like it in the history of the university, and it was all Black people. So the provost, this white lady, I'm getting ready, because I went last, I'm getting ready to go use the boys' room before I come back in, and there's this white lady sitting in the back. What you doing? Oh, the provost. How you doing, Dr. Joe? What you doing? I just okay. See, you thought you ran this place. See the Negroes here? No, we run ourselves. And so what we're really doing is giving your place legitimacy right now. But what I wrote about, African-centered philosophy of history in the contemporary era, its antecedents and implications for world history, what I wrote about was vetted by them. And I never forget, Nzinga Radabisha Heru, the president then of the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations, now an ancestor, hardcore African from Mississippi by way of Minnesota, not too far from where you paddle rollers murdered that brother Locke, the other day. Nzinga Radabisha Heru, who stood in the back of the auditorium at Tennessee State in 2003 when we had the association meeting in Nashville, and my mother was one of the Queen Mothers in ASCAP with a number of others, Queen Mother Melba Franklin, Amina Mayo, so many others who are now ancestors as well. But the two of these Black women standing in the back is hardcore African, drum beating, libation pouring, Egyptian hieroglyph reading. Some of the people that are children who have been cut off from their memory and are listening to other people, interpreters would call hoteps and think that's an insult. It's really tragic what miseducation does to us. But the two of them in the back holding each other's hands, moving up and down, singing old spirituals from when they grew up in the church. So y'all get to understand, you got to focus to see who we are. You can't put us in these boxes. Anyway, I set out to say that at the end of our dissertation defenses, Nzinga, who had flown in from LA and met up with her sister, Yasantewa Blake, Dr. Blake, Annette Blake, who was principal of a school here in Maryland, also, one of our ASCAC officers, they came to the stage with certificates that had been created for us by these 2 young sisters, just barely into their teens, blood sisters from Los Angeles, Jamie and Debbie Thomas. Jamie Thomas now has a PhD. She's professor of linguistics, does a lot of cultural work and studies. Her sister Debbie has an MD. She's a research scientist, neuroscience. They were like 12 and 14 or something like that, or 13 and 11 or something. They had made handcrafted certificates of completion and award of PhDs The provost of the university is sitting in the back of the auditorium, packed with black people. And most of these Negroes, North Philly, came from Baltimore, DC, New York, and like in Zinging them from these are the Negroes who, like my cousins and them from Alabama and Georgia, that when you see them, you just almost want to go pick a fight because you know you're going to win. So these are Negroes like, say it again, say it again. These are, so they all in there now. She's sitting there realizing, even though these dissertations ultimately have to have the signatures of the graduate school, myself, the president, whatever. At that moment, she realizes you have no authority. We don't enable you to be able to have. Because these two little girls just sent our completion documents from the West Coast. And they delivered them by this African sitting up here named Nzingarata Bisha Heru, whose birth name was Claudine Parker, from the Rondo community, the Maroon community of St. Paul, Minnesota, because her daddy, A.B. Parker, moved up from Mississippi. He said, I'm leaving the United States. I'm getting as close as I can to leaving the United States without leaving the country. And that was Minnesota, God bless him, and her mother. And the provost realized, you're gonna have to sit here and watch this. And at that point, you become a student and you recognize what is happening. And in that moment, you recognize that these spaces that we're in can be made to work for us if we're not afraid to be who we are. Mm-hmm. And what Narrative and Nubia become is a virtual extension of that kind of maroon intellectual work that is community-based, not based on where you went to school, how many degrees you have. No, it's based like my mother's life was based on teaching and learning. And when you heard them say, my nephew say, my mother was a teacher, she didn't have a paper. He was right technically, but that social structure paper also is not necessary because my mother was trained by teachers. I sat with my cousins yesterday from Alabama, and they talked about Mr. and Ms. Tarver. Ms. Tarver taught school. Mr. Carr was the principal. Mr. Tarver was the principal at the Uchi Valley School. My mother went to school in Russell County, Alabama, same place Janet and Michael Jackson's parents are from, and I mother is from. And I know that was covered extensively in the Janet Jackson. It was covered extensively in the Janet Jackson documentary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. That's important because the idea is that my mother was shaped by teachers. These are the segregated teachers in the South. These are the women and men, many of whom lost their jobs after desegregation. As my dear friend and colleague from the College of Education formerly at the College of Education, before that, Clark Atlanta University, great educator, Leslie Swigert now, but she is publishing a book that's coming out now this month called Jim Crow's Pink Slip. She has been working on this pink slip for Jim Crow's Pink Slip for a long time. This is the story of how they screwed our teachers during desegregation. Integration allowed us for opportunities. Yeah, what happened to all them black teachers that taught my mama and my Aunt Carr C, Frankie Lane's mama, and Jeanette mama? What happened to those teachers? Those teachers who, because what they'll tell you is the narrative is, oh, Dr. Carr, he got a PhD, he's first in his family, blah, blah, blah. His mother and father couldn't even finish junior high school because Jim Crow. Okay, y'all take all that social structure narrative and you dump it in there with your master, the one you love so much. The one you love so much, it hurts for you to say anything in a faculty meeting or an administrative meeting, or that might get you not put in the documentary. It says you gotta say the thing that you don't really even believe that. And we're gonna talk about Cosby. You don't really even believe, but then maybe you do believe it. So y'all gonna stay with that social structure. But when you think that somebody who didn't get past the 8th grade somehow had a disadvantage, you better go and look at who taught them. Because see, when you see me, you see Miss Tarver. I never met her, but I didn't need to because she taught my mama. Do you understand? And when my mother says, and then when you heard my mother yesterday, she said, they look at you and say, you look like a teacher. Well, what does a teacher look like? I'll tell you what a teacher looks like. A teacher looks like a jegna. A teacher looks like a person who carries themselves with the radiating sense that I can learn something from this person. Y'all had teachers like that. Teachers who you could be cutting up, as we used to say, and acting, and then they just, when they're entering the room, everybody calm down. You heard Baba Jitu yesterday say itutu, coolness in Yoruba. Coolness. What does it mean to be cool? Cool the tongue, cool the path with fresh water. He prayed that yesterday for my mom. Cool it, because she's now entering the answer. Cool the path. Coolness. Teachers. He said, you look like a teacher. You look like a teacher. What does a teacher look like? You're not really even talking about just this. We're talking about this. I'm seeing with this what the Egyptians call the Ebe, your heart and your mind at the same time. They're making no distinction. They understand it's a feeling as well. So that genealogy of teaching is not to be found in the teacher education programs. It's not to be found in the, well, are you teaching math? Well, yeah. How? Well, I have a degree in teacher education. Last night, God bless my sister and brother-in-law, my brother and sister, Randy and Gussie. Because see, they just a little younger than me. They 50, 56. But God, it seemed like forever. I remember when they were all kids, and certainly my sister since she was a baby, right? And so last night, when we finally got to where we were staying, they called their friends, and now it's a million Negroes in here. Where did y'all come from? And many of them I known since they were my sister's age when she met them, which is usually college or high school. They were all children. To see them now with children who are my niece and nephew's age or older is bizarre to me. It's time. You know what I'm saying? So, another one we said, nah, we ain't gonna get in there because again, that blue note, time is filled with swift transition. Y'all know that song. Some of y'all know what that song. You know what I'm talking about? Yes, sir. Build your hopes on things eternal. Can't sing that song. Hold on to God's unchanging hand. You can sing all them songs forever. See, I don't hear them songs as a Christian no more. I hear those songs as an African. Build your hopes on things eternal. In ancient Egyptian. Jet in ancient Egypt. 2 words for eternity. They were building for eternity. That's the motto of ASCAC, building for eternity. So when I hear, build your hopes on things eternal, it's like when they, so the idea what I'm bringing up is that, time is filled with swift transition. That's the first line of that hymn. That's a hymn, Congressman. You know the difference between a hymn and an anthem? That's the difference between lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Yeah, Congressman. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song. Rosemont Johnson put that blue note there on purpose. Full of the hope that the present has brought us. I don't see Ben Franklin in that mantle, Congressman. I heard your testimony yesterday. I played it with Steve Cohen, the chair of the subcommittee there on the Constitution and Judiciary Committee. Yeah, facing the rising sun, let our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Unless you can stop a paddle roller, you need to stop playing with a hymn. There is no national hymn in the United States of America, sir. Need I remind you, I'm going to skip over and come right over to verse 3, brother, my favorite. God of our weary years. Who is our? God of our silent tears. I'm putting a children's book in your face because you might need a children's book to walk through this with some illustrations. Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way. That could be Miss Tarver going up in the Uchi Valley. You see them going to school, Congressman? Do you see them going to school? Come on now. Come on, brother. Thou who hast by thy might let us into the light. Keep us forever in the path we pray. It's an anthem that can speak to all of us. Yes, it's about the Black experience, but it speaks to all of us. Really? 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 Let's go to the next verse. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Where did you meet your God? And where did the people who taught you their God meet their God? And where did their people meet their God? You better go back and review. In fact, go back to Haiti, Congressman. You from South Carolina. You know a lot of them Negroes in Charleston, which was a Latin-based city. A lot of those Negroes came out the Spanish Caribbean, Congressman. One of them islands was Hispaniola. You know what's on Hispaniola now? Of course you do, Congressman, because you are a history teacher, which is why I know this is politics. Certainly not intellectual work, no matter how many Ebony Great Hero busts you got behind you on the interviews. Yeah, I look at them busts and I'm saying, what would Charles Drew think? I can't read Martin Luther King's mind, but I wonder what he would think. Yeah, since you're from South Carolina, you understand. That those people, a lot of them came out of the Caribbean, and then some of them people came out of the Caribbean were also on the other part of that island of Hispaniola that we now call Haiti. And then in Haiti, when they started the Haitian Revolution, and we did it in class with that, it was Jean-Jacques Dessalines along with Cecile Fatimon when they had that ritual, brother. The boy came on, and it was Bookman Daddy that said, Daddy Bookman that said, cast down the image of the white man's God who has brought down your tears for so long. And listen to liberty that lives in all of our hearts. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who has brought us thus far on the way, thou who is by thy might let us into the light, keep us forever now in the path we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. You better go back and trace. One of my favorite pictures of my mom, we put in the obituary, is her kneeling at the offering table of the White Chapel, 3,800-year-old chapel, 12th dynasty, Middle Kingdom, Egypt, saying her prayer. And you heard when the last words on her lips in that eulogy you heard yesterday was stand up for Jesus. I don't get caught up in the Jesus, because when I hear that, I hear Ashe, I hear Olodumare, I hear Nyame. If you want to fight about it, take it up with Jeremiah Wright. That's only leg 3 of a 4-leg relay. Look who's in the stands. You want to fight. 4th leg being run by Jesus, but as Reverend Wright said, look who's in the stands. Those are your ancestors. And he named that day. My mother heard that sermon here at Howard. Dean, I talked to Dean Richardson yesterday, the chapel, the dean of the chapel. He called. I'm sitting there getting ready for the thing. He said, "Oh man, I just heard." I said, "Brother, it's all right." See, that's how you know home training. That's how you know home training. See, it's Negroes that go for titles and celebrity who mistake that for character, for Iwapele, as the Yoruba would say. And then there's people who understand character. They just checking on you. Like all of y'all. Like the Nubians who showed up at the doggone visitation Thursday night. Amber, thank you, sis, for not only bringing that beautiful card that y'all had an e-card, they printed it out and bound it for my family. For making the donation to this fund we're building now for scholarships to give out, because my mom was all about education. As you heard, my brother Ricky and Donovan from Bermuda. And then we talked so long Thursday night about Sidney Poitier, because that's where Donovan's from. And we talked about that. All them stories that we talked about, Karen, he was telling us from of a Bermudan who didn't know any place in the United States. Came to Tennessee State, made friends with my brother. My brother said, "You got to come and meet my mama," and now that's her son too. The whole point is that, you know, that work continues with us now. As Lane said, you can't see her. You got to see us. That's how it works. But I'm bringing all this to say that, you know, if you're going to see this, Congressman, and by the way, y'all don't know what I'm talking about. There was testimony yesterday before the House Subcommittee, Judiciary Committee Subcommittee on Constitution and Civil Rights and stuff. Congressman Jim Clyburn out of South Carolina, an elder, a brother's done a lot of very important work. But nevertheless, one of his blunders, and I think it's a blunder, and it's no disrespect to him as an individual. You know, I'm getting a little feisty and fired up about it because I feel some kind of way about it. He's saying that maybe we should make no, not maybe. I'll support making the lift every voice and sing the national hymn of the United States. I've introduced a piece of legislation, H.R. 301, and it would be important for this hymn, which speaks to the universality of American experiences, even though it is coming from African American experience, to be made the national hymn. Do you know the hymn? I know you know the difference between a hymn and an anthem, so I ain't even gonna finish lift every voice and sing. But if you want to, I have probably a dozen different children's books because I love, you know why I love the children's books on Lift Every Voice and Sing? This is the one illustrated by Brian Collier, words of course by James Weldon Johnson. The reason I love the children's books, we all know that, well, we should know the hymn, all 3 verses. The reason I love the children's books because I love seeing how artists interpret Lift Every Voice and Sing. And what you find over and over and over and over again, they love drawing children. Why? We think about the future. These children's books artists, they love this And I also want to pause here and thank you, Reyes, and thank your brother who did the art. And I was getting ready to go to Nashville and Wednesday morning, and just before midnight, I had to, check my mail room for any mail, that I hadn't already, paused with. And there was a flat board envelope kind of thing in the mail. I said, this is too big. What is it? I undid it. Your Reyes, thank you, brother. Because the artist you got to do this. Look at that, y'all. Whoever that is, I'm gonna tell you right now. You caught my mama. I gotta put this on the wall. And then at the bottom, you put the Africa. Look at that. When you stand with the blessings of your mother and God, it matters not who stands against you. See, you gotta understand that. But that's my mom right there. That's a gift. That is a.
You know what? As a matter of fact, he can. You're Reyes. When you sent me that, I was please tell Dr. Carr who the artist is and how this all, because he was like, do you think he'd mind? You think? I was like, no, I don't think he'll mind.
Yeah, as I told you, Dr. Carr, that was the greatest honor and pleasure to be able to honor her and honor you and honor the Nubian community in that way. The artist is Brother Donald Wooten down in Georgia. He's a master portrait artist, illustrator. So we pulled him in and put our heads together and thought that would be the best way to commemorate it in that way. So we appreciate you, we love you, and that's the physical manifestation of the community's love for you, and man, we appreciate you.
I can't. First of all, you raised Asante Sana, thank you, and Brother Donald, Brother Wooten, we gotta be in conversation, man. That because to capture that, the reason that one gets me is because the look is that gentle look. That gentle look. My mother's very gentle, but also very, very, very loving and very clear. That's her. And the hands. Come on, y'all. My littlest niece, Khan Kamaria, my brother Jeff's children, and Kenitha, my sister Kenitha. They're little, so they got jokes for days. It's so funny. Kai was like, Uncle Greg, you a book hoarder. Really? That's what we're gonna do right now? So Ellington come in the room while I said, am I a book hoarder? Because he don't want to come up here and stay with me. He's the oldest. So he come, me and him come. And we do things that, uncles and nephews do. He went to Kemet with me, you know what I'm saying? So we do things uncles and nephews do. Your daddy and your mama won't let you, you know how that works. So anyway, they ain't old enough that I said, am I a book hoarder? He said, yeah. Really? Are you gonna sell me out, brother? That's what we doing now? I said, yes, I am. And guess what? I don't care. And now I know who I can't leave the books to in my will. So anyway, but don't worry about that, because it ain't even gonna be about the will, because my thing is we'll have an institution. That's what we look.
That's it.
What is narrative? What is Nubia talking about? What we not gonna do is turn over no more stuff, because where the records of the Black Teachers Associations now? There's a brilliant young brother at Harvard, Jarvis Givens. There's another sister, my friend Imani Perry at Princeton. They are heading this multi-million-dollar project that's centered at Harvard, where they're digitizing all the records of the Black Teachers Association. It's going to make them available to people, and that's very important. I have a complete set. It took me years to find them, of all the histories of the Black Teachers Association written by the Black teachers who were in the association, because they forced the NEA to give them money to do it when they merged after integration. Remember, I told you about Leslie's book, Jim Crow's Pink Slip, and they lost their association. But I'm saying all to say that while the access will be great, you think these white institutions are doing that as an act of charity? No, because once they've digitized them, you know how many times their lawyers go over those agreements? So now, guess what? Those records are not being digitized by Jackson State. So when you see our sister out of Egypt, Mississippi, who did the history of the Mississippi Teachers Association, yeah, that's not going to be there. Cleopatra Thompson, when you see the history of the Virginia Teachers Association, when you hear the Florida Teachers Association that Mary McLeod Bethune led, that ain't gonna be a Bethune-Cookman or FAMU. It's not gonna be a Virginia State University where my friend Makola Abdullah is the president, or at or Norfolk State University where my dear friend and master teacher Kalita Nichols Fairfax said, no, Harvard got it. Guess what they not gonna get? None of this. So,
Well,
no, I'm gonna say less. That ain't important. But
I mean, and you always say institutions, you know, they can't beat. And so, you know, that one time we talked about Carter G. Woodson, and you dropped in my spirit how the that 5 on it, that those kids, and all I could think about was that we need then you talked about Schomburg. I'm like, okay, we got to have a Dr. Gray Carr. And you're like, no. I'm like, yes, we have to have a Dr. Gray Carr library in multiple places, including in Africa, because this lifelong collection of knowledge that you have assembled, and this is just maybe a tenth of what you actually have, has to be left for all of our children's children. It can't go to them.
No, but it will if people don't miss it. In fact, I'm glad you said it. Well, the reason I say when I kind of shake my head about that is because I wouldn't want a library name for me, because I have an African name, but it's not in the African language. Okay. Because as last week I told y'all, my mom tells a story that my daddy was in the Army, and I was laughing because I was with my cousin June yesterday. I mean, June, short for Junebug, not even Junior, which probably was where Junebug came from, but Hugh. he and my sister Kelly, they came up from Atlanta, and June was the one that spoke, talking about me reading, sitting there in the floor with the newspaper. My daddy, mom was over in the house. But you know, all of our uncles, my daddy, his daddy, who wasn't bloodline, married my father's sister, but all of our blood uncles, my father's brother Virgil, his brother Charles, his brother AB, which stands for AB. Some of y'all know about that in the South. And Bill, them Negroes was drafted. 4 of them got drafted to go to World War II. Charles was the baby. He wasn't too old to go, but later on, he got pulled in. See, this period now, Korea and Vietnam. And so all that Saving Private Ryan BS, y'all be ready. Yeah, it don't apply to us. We was just sitting there talking about that. Me and Hugh yesterday. But I'm saying I have to say that my father was in the Army, World War II veteran, and like my uncles. And he met a guy in the Army who had a son named Greg. He said that was the smartest little boy he ever seen. And if he had a son, he wanted to name him Greg. So they see, a lot of people say, oh, you're so smart. First of all, if I have any gift, it's representative. It's not unique. My point is that we all have these gifts, and I will spend whatever life breath I have left in this shell constantly reminding us, stop listening to these people and stop listening to anybody who will have you believe that we can't all do so. Even as we all have individual things we can do maybe better than other things, a great deal of this is just exposure, awareness, immersion, and surrounding with institutions. I promise y'all that. I know that. We know that. We all know that. I mean, but to the point, Greg, then to me, that's an African name in the sense of the intent behind how I get this name. But it's not an African name. Carr, well, that's just a label for a criminal enterprise. Oof. I'm just saying, it's no different than Hunter. It's no different than Black or Brown or Washington or Jefferson or Jackson. These are just names. I mean, Washington, Jefferson, Jackson might be different in the sense, or Black may be different in the sense that coming out of enslavement, people of African descent, given their choices. So some of them become African names, believe it or not, because they were like, well, who's the most important white man in y'all society? George Washington. Okay, my name is James Washington. It's 1865. My name is no longer whatever your name is. I'm gonna pick who's president right now? Andrew Jackson? No, Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson, right? Johnson, no problem. My name is Charles Johnson. In other words, these Negroes is taking name. So it's almost it's an act of self-definition. So I respect that. That having been said, when do we break the chain that link our ideas to European ideas and speak to our ancestors without interpreters? This is the name of the formation in Senegal that Ayikwe Armaz created, Per Ankh. It means house of life. This is one of the books that we had our Freedom School kids read a couple of years ago, Wat and Shamsu, which means the way of companions. In other words, the way of those who come together, who accompany each other to build a new world. There's a good novel, Catherine Adams down at Claflin, who's one of those people who helps our young people understand how to interview elders and talk with people who we're pulling in the narrative, who is very excited about that. She has talked about another book I'll have on the shelf here I won't pull, called The Resolutionaries, where Aikwe Armah writes about what that would look like. He gives a fictional thing to give a background. This is more of a historical piece and an interpretive piece. There's Baba Aikwe right there. I'm saying that to say that any institutional name for me should allow us to get closer to two things. It should allow us to get closer to breaking the chain. However, it should also be able to preserve the genealogy. So if whatever institutional space we end up in formation, which will be impregnable to our friends, who then say, "Oh yes, we'd like to do it," and then Howard has agreed to allow us to. Yeah, well, I think. Do I have a slip of notebook paper left at Howard? Where is that? It right there. Okay, let me look. Thanks. I love this. Where you going? Oh no, y'all not getting a slip. I can't trust you, Negroes. And the people who tell you that, you end up even trying to fire or marginalize. And this is no shade. I'm saying this is a mentality. This is why Woodson refused to grant money if the condition was he had to link his association to one of the HBCUs. I was graduated by HBCU. I worked at an HBCU. Y'all understand my commitment to historically Black colleges and universities. We spent a great deal of time talking about that, even last night with a brother who is the dean at Fisk University. Listening to Kent have a conversation with this brother's a physicist by training. Okay, Grambling State University undergraduate, went on, got his PhD. Brilliant brother, has committed his whole life and practice at Fisk for 22 years now of generating new generations of Black physicists. And not only that, going into Nashville, into the various communities of Black people, this young brother, I say now, well, I think about because he's my sister in age, which is only 5-6 years younger, brother than him, right? But this young brother got, as another one of my sister's students who is now a professor. She's working out of St. Louis at the UCSS Grant historical site, but National Park Service. Jocelyn Imani, Dr. Imani, who came to Howard. Her sister sent her to me. We talking about when we met at Howard about 15 years ago almost now. But anyway, she finished her PhD at Howard in history. But we were all sitting there last night laughing and talking, and I'm sitting with them. And she said, "Yeah, Kent, you over there at Fisk, man, you got these young Black kids out here making rockets in the hood." He does. He teaches them rocket science because he's going. In fact, my nephew Ellington, Gussie gave him to Kent when he was a little boy. Said because she wanted to make sure he loved math and science before these people get a hold of him and tell him, like they tell our Black kids they can't do math and science. And so Kent had him building rockets, doing investigative science. This is how you do it. You gotta have a mastery. So anyway, I sent out to say, so I am all in for HBCUs, but HBCU archives and repositories have not been supported by people necessarily. So in the necessary amount. So when these friends come in who are really looking to get their hands on our stuff, just we want to help you. So we have a seed grant that's going to allow, and if you can do this right, then we're going to give you some equipment. Now, of course, we will return the originals to you, and then we'll have a copy. So there'll always be, and then you end up with a place like Emory, where they got all your stuff, Maury Evans stuff, and the theater stuff from James Hatch, and you got out there, you name it, they got it. W.C. Handy stuff, Carter G. Woodson's private library, the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, sold to Emory. Yeah. That's what happened. In the words of Ice Cube, and no Vaseline. Then let's play big bank, take little bank. The whole point is this: somebody got to stand up. Damn it, because the real repository of our people is not in a single page in any of these books. It's in your mom and them. Somebody got to sit with them and just say, repeat what you told me, except I want to just say it again. Or just put the tape recorder down. Old folks, particularly old folks, they don't care. They're gonna tell it whether you got 50 cameras on them broadcasting to every human being in the world, or it's just the two of y'all talking. Some things they gonna say. And so get it. Begin, and as you get it, let's collect it. We got a place now. We're building this place. We're continuing to build this place. But anyway, I didn't want to get too far in. And see, they invited them young people over there, young people younger than me, and them Negroes was up until some insane hour of the. I went to bed, and I said, "Oh, I got to get on this plane because if I miss this plane, I'm not gonna be able to get back in time. Do this. We got our 100th, And so I woke up. What time is it? Oh, I said, I can't get to the airport now. So I went in there, got my brother, sister. Yo, man, I think I'm gonna have to, I don't know where I'm gonna, so I'm already planning. I'm gonna go somewhere here. I'm just gonna fly out tomorrow. I'm gonna find a stream somewhere, find a place I can stream. I can do it from here. And then I just sat down and said, nah. Randy was like, we can go. I said, nah, you're right. In fact, we got it. Because in that moment, I heard my mom. You know, it's supposed to be an ice storm in Nashville this weekend. We sitting at the funeral home with Ricky. Shout out to Richard Lewis and Wright Funeral Home. They also funeralized Jamie Coleman Williams. They were in Atlanta. So we sat Ricky, third generation funeral director. Y'all know how black folk, we real serious about it. We talked about our sister Holloway's book, Passed On, before I went down. And we sitting with them. It's a beautiful thing when you sit with black people who know black people, who've been in black community for years or a century. That's Richard and Lewis and Wright. And his daddy came in, who's technically retired, but you know, black people can't really spell retire. I think some Negroes call retire emeritus, but it's just another word for I got keys and I'm never giving them up. So we in there, here come Mr. Lewis. Hey man, I love the remarks you gave at Mama Jamie's memorial in Atlanta at Big Bethel. Of course, he's big in the AME church. So I mean, it's a whole we had an AME conversation, all this going on. Anyway, long story short, we sitting there. And the sister who really runs the place, the assistant, right? Because you know, and this sister been there for decades too. Y'all know how it works. You got people who do the stuff you see, then you got the people who make sure the trains run on time. She says, yeah, you know, we got, you know, we just hope the weather holds up. So, and then of course, y'all heard all this stuff, flight cancellations, everything through the Southeast is coming through Texas, messed that up. Oh my God. And then I just got real calm. I said, no, we good. Why? Because I know my mama not gonna let it happen. You got to almost believe. You know, we were in a generation that came up behind the generation with the Caravans and Alberta Hunter and Sister Rosetta Tharpe and them, but the ones who came up under them, behind Mahalia Jackson is James Cleveland and Andre Crouch and Sandra Crouch. And I was about the 70s and 80s, we singing them songs. And of course, y'all know that James Cleveland song, Where is Your Faith? Except my faith is in God, but like the Catholics say, my faith is in God, but I'm gonna go through St. Francis of Assisi. My faith is in God, and I'm gonna go through Kathy Carr. You know what I'm saying? There, I got a saint, Orisha, no problem, Mom. All good. When I tell you it's supposed to start Thursday night, now me, because as I told him yesterday, my first drug dealer I ever met in person was Thomas Hayes Sr.
Coffee, y'all.
Coffee right now.
Coffee.
Yes, sir. And oh my God, Thomas Hayes and snuck up. Look, told me to go in there to my grandmama, Big Mama Gussie, which means this happens before 1970. Mama grandma made transition 1970. I was 5 years old. My granddad told me to go in there, my grandmama, to Big Mama, and ask her for a saucer and bring it back to me. So I do it. She gives the saucer. I go back in here. He in the back. Took his iron cup, poured that drug into that saucer. And I've been hooked ever since. You did that to me, Big Pop. It's all good, though. I ain't mad at you. Sugar and coffee. Two of the main reasons we in this conversation, having this conversation in English. Two of the main reasons them people in Cuba having conversation in Spanish. Two of the main reasons they speaking in French and native. Coffee and sugar. International drug trade. And the first drug dealer I saw face to face and was influenced by was an Alabama farmer named Thomas Hayes Sr. Anyway, the point is this. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, and I wasn't 5. My Big Mom was still walking around making chicken and dumplings. Boy, we was talking about chicken and dumplings so much yesterday. I swear I wish we could have had some. Anyway, them recipes. You heard Jerome talk about that pound cake. I suspect my mother's pound cake. You know what I'm saying? Generationally. So anyway, to the point. Because the reason I'm kind of saying some of these things today is because, again, not exceptional, representative. Everybody listening to this, if you're of African descent, you got a story just like this or just slightly different. And together they become the story of us. This is the story of us. When you sing a hymn, you're singing to God. When you're singing an anthem, oh, say, can you see? No, I can't. Why? I'm actually in a field in Maryland. I'm really not at Fort McHenry. I'm actually on the ship with the British firing at Fort McHenry, right? Because they told me, if we fight you, I will be free. Now, they may betray me, but you, Mr. Key, been talking about sending us all out the country or enslaving us because you kind of like slavery. So when you ask me, oh, say, can you see? Yeah, the answer to that's going to be no, bruh. So all the people that testified yesterday, that I watched the testimony, this Republican guy out of Utah, who I will not name, the black Republican, who Burgess Owens, or whatever his name, Owens, man, I don't know. Anyway, who Owens, that's interesting. Who has this, he supports it too. Well, shit, if you support it, you're a black member of the White Nationalist Party. Y'all do understand that there will be white nationalists, including the mayor of Jacksonville, even though the Democratic representative, House of Representatives supports this bill. Also, the Republican mayor of Jacksonville supports it. That should tell you right there, it don't mean nothing. But a hymn's different than an anthem, bruh. We praying to God. They praying to war against your black ass. Because when you read the third verse of the Star Spangled Banner, unlike the third verse of Lift Every Voice and Sing, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears. You know what a silent tear is? You know what a silent tear is? A silent tear is a tear you cry on the inside and you keep in, and you somehow make a way to realize that there will come a generation that will dry those silent tears. Those are the tears that I'm sure my mother's father's mother and father and mother and father, the Doc Hayes and Nancy Hayes and Peter Hayes and Mamie Hayes, who then trace back to the 1830s. Those are the tears they cried, hoping that one day they would have children, that would have children, that would have children, that would have children, that will fix this. God of our silent tears. My mother's parents, Ella and Gussie Williams, their parents, come on now. I'm sorry, Ella and Albert Williams. These are the prayers that they prayed. God of our silent, ain't no we, Congressman, there is no we. The third verse of the Star Spangled Banner said the hiring enslaved will suffer for being on the wrong side of the so-called American Revolution. So, Congressman Clyburn, when you opened your remarks yesterday by quoting Benjamin Franklin, I cringed because you know better. I understand the objective, sir. I don't support it, but I do understand it. You say, I mean, if I say yes, boss, no, I'm sorry, not yes, boss. If I say us enough, they might believe it, which is why when I listen to Steve Cohen, the chair of the subcommittee from Memphis, I just came back from Tennessee, Congressman. I just came back from Tennessee. See, because I'm one of them Negroes who inherited my mother's contempt for lying MFs, but also her love for all of us. So when you heard Frankie Lane Davis, my cousin, stand up there and say about my mama that sometimes auntie say things I didn't want to hear it, but I knew she's going to give it to me straight. Well, bruh, I love you, and I'm going to give it to you straight. The chair of that subcommittee, Steve Cohen, who comes out of the 9th district in Memphis. You know what they're doing in Memphis, aren't you, Congressman Clyburn? They have figured out a way, these white nationalists in a state, border confederacy, north of the deep confederacy. I'm going to the store looking for my mom's obituary in Tennessee, and you know, they don't print newspapers no more, so you got to catch the one they put out. I'm down there. I'm halfway there before I realized, damn, I left my mask. And then I remembered I was in the South. I don't need no mask. I walked in the damn store for the first time in 2 years where my face was exposed. I'm trying to do this, and I'm looking around like, I guess I'm a fool. Let me just go on and finish. So my point is, in that state, but they don't give a damn whether you live or die. You see? In that state, where they just passed a law saying you can have open carry anywhere. I'm talking about guns, not liquor. In that state, where they just put a black woman out of the Tennessee state legislature. I'm reading the Tennessean, sitting drinking my drugs. Thanks, Thomas Hayes. Reading the Tennessean from Thursday, February 3rd, the morning of our visitation. Here's the Tennessean. I open it. Above the fold, they talking about building some more Super Bowl ready football stadium stuff. Tennessee Titans in downtown Nashville. They used to be the hood. They cleaned it all off, put them a stadium there. Yes, sir. F y'all. The only Negroes we want is running up and down the field. Oh, my goodness, but Brian Flores is not Colin Kaepernick. Oh, well, Hugh Jackson, who was the coach at Grambling, now like, yeah, everything he said was true. Oh, the young boy who used to be the quarterback, blazing quarterback, then rose through the ranks, was on staffs and coming back. He done told him, what's the brother's name? It was the Tampa Bay. Told him, don't even take my name out the shit. I know y'all bullshit. What's his name? Dante Culpepper. Me and Randy was talking about me. Culpepper say, take my name out of consideration because it ain't in consideration. Oh, Flores got y'all shook. Why? I'm gonna have a class action. See, but this ain't Kurt Flood. This ain't the late 1960s where you cut Kurt Flood's whole head off. He never plays baseball again. Returns to the bottle. Dies young. But now everybody who signs a free agent contract should have Kurt Flood name on your mouth, just like every Black college president claiming a record year of fundraising should give 5% to George Floyd and Breonna Taylor family, because y'all act like this happened because of your skill instead of dead ass fear. That we're just getting ready to burn this. There is no we, Congressman, but I'm sitting there drinking my coffee. This Thomas Hayes got me hooked on. And I'm saying they talking about building baseball stadiums on the top of the Tennessee on Thursday, but what's beneath the fold? Expulsion is Senate's first. They done put this young sister out of the Tennessee legislature, Katrina Robinson, State Senator Robinson, claiming that she embezzled. For the first time, Tennessee Senate on Wednesday voted to expel a senator. For the first time. This the damn Tennessee legislature that bred the Confederacy. You know, Nathaniel Bedford, he was old history professor, Congressman Clyburn. So you know Nathaniel Bedford Forrest, the founder of the Ku Klux Klan in Pulaski, Tennessee in 1866. Yes, sir. It's okay, though. I know what you're doing. I know you want to believe it. I know you need to believe it. I know you're thinking about legacy. I know you're thinking about the future. I know you think that if you can just get the right gesture, that these white people, the scales gonna fall off their eyes. They're gonna look at you and say, I love you. No, brother. You know what, though? Every time you do that, you know who I hear in the back of my mind? Shit, I hear Bobby Blue Bland. I pity the fool that falls in love with you and expect you to be true. Oh, I pity the fool. See, that's why they can't let me in charge of no funerals, nothing like that, because I've been to play all kind of music. We be in there, look at the people, and they get some horns. Dun, 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 dun. I know you wonder what they're doing. They just standing there watching you make a fool of me. Oh, I pity the fool. Oh, and then y'all had them hearings on Friday, same day we put our mama's body in the ground. You had these hearings talking about you gonna lift every voice and sing the national hymn. You better listen to Bobby Blue Bland and a little part of that refrain when he say, she'll break your heart one day, and then she'll laugh and walk away. Oh, I pity the fool. That I'm singing about is the United States of America, Congressman. I pity the fool that falls in love with you and expect you to be true. Look at the people. That's us, Congressman. All the black people. Look at the people. I know you wonder what they're doing. They just standing there watching you make a fool. Look at the people. Oh, I know you wonder what they're doing. It's people right now saying, well, you know, I'm sure that some of the people testified yesterday. The author of the book Anthem, the sister from the National Museum of African American History and Culture, I'm sure some of them people, while they was talking in the testimony, was saying to themselves, but I like being called to testify before Congress. See, they ain't like Adjoa, who would have said, yeah, this don't impress me. Y'all want me to testify? It's not going to work out well for you. In fact, they would never call Adjoa. Some Negroes gonna speak truth to power, like Adjoa, her father, my mom, people like that. They're not gonna do that. So you're not gonna test. We're not gonna testify. People say, well, Dr. Carr, why don't they ask you to do more? I say, because a lot of them Negroes know me. Do you really want me in there to walk them like a dog through this? Oh no. But the point I'm trying to make is, and they put her out for some BS. These Republicans, you know, the White Nationalist Party of Tennessee has a 27-6, I think 27-6, 27-5, 27-6 majority in the Tennessee legislature. That's how they done cut up the state of Tennessee. But Congressman Cohen, Steve Cohen out of Memphis, said yesterday to open the remarks, he said, Congressman Clyburn thinks that this might bring us all together, and I hope that that might be true. I love that from this white congressman out of Memphis, Shelby County, because the skepticism, he said, even in that brief moment, I'm listening, I kind of chuckled to myself. Cohen know what it is, because guess what? They have, there are 2 Democratic congressmen representing the state of Tennessee from the state of Tennessee. One is Cohen from Memphis. Jim Cooper is the other one from Nashville. I'm gonna tell you what the white nationalist party did, and I'll give y'all a standing ovation, because see, I ain't got no investment in your thing. I know where we live, and I know where it's headed, because I know some world history enough to know I know where it's headed. This is from the Black newspaper, the Tennessee Tribune. I bought this one in the airport because it had Jamie Coleman Williams, my sister, you know, and with McDonald Williams. This is they did the front page obituary at Tennessee Tribune. Here's Jim Cooper. He's the Nashville-based representative in the Tennessee State Legislature. You see what it said? Rep. Cooper won't seek re-election in light of redistricting split. These white nationalists, members of Devilment Incorporated, I won't say devil, won't personalize this, Devilment. That's what my mom and them used to call it. You know, they wouldn't say evil, because evil is a heavy word. You know, old black folk, it's like lie. You can't really say lie. Children, we couldn't say lie. You know, those kind of things. You telling a tale, we had to say tale. While lie is a heavy word. Evil is a heavy word. They reserved that. You know, even the letters in the word, it was the sound of the word and the inflection of the word, like the way my brother Jerome referred to how my mama slipped his her grandchild Jamoke a piece of chicken, even though she knew that my brother is a vegan. But it was the way Jerome said the word vegan yesterday. Like Ms. Carr knew that Jeff was a vegan. See, when you say vegan like that, what you're really saying is it's the contempt in the vegan. You know what I'm saying? And all my Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia cousins, because Jerome from Alabama, they knew exactly what you meant. Not vegan, vegan. He's a vegan. So anyway, my point is that evil has a ring to it, but you don't even need to add anything. You can say Jesus, or you can say Jesus. You said Jesus. That's like saying Ashe. I'm not even listening for the vowels and consonants. I'm listening for I'm listening for the phonology, as they might say in Ebonics, not to be confused with African American English. That's a story for another day. But the point is this. When you think about what's going on in Tennessee, these people, you know, so instead of saying evil, they might say devilment. This devilment they involved in, this white nationalists in this settler state called United States, including Tennessee, they done figured out a way to redistrict in Tennessee so that they can possibly increase their majority in the United States Congress from 6-2, which is what they have now, white nationalists. Memphis black as hell. Nashville black. Parts of Chattanooga black. Spots of blue. Because you know the South is never red. Y'all watch them election maps and get confused. I'm saying y'all, none of us, we know what it is. But they done figured out a way to slice and dice. They done introduced some more white nationalists into Cohen's district in Memphis. And they want to split Nashville, the capital of the state, now the largest city and county in the state. Used to be Memphis for years. Now it's Nashville. It's quickly growing. And the white people coming to Nashville is not white nationalists. These northern, you know, people coming down, like they coming to Atlanta and Charlotte, they love it. And then they trying to put everybody out of our neighborhoods. And that's a deep problem. And then they put up a Black Lives Matter sign, hashtag abstract Black Lives Matter. I fixed it for you. Then again, you wouldn't probably put up a sign in the window that would say abstract Black Lives Matter, because it seems to me, as I told them the other day, I said, to understand the real function of gentrification, you don't need to map the neighborhoods in the daytime. Just go at night. Everybody with the lights off or curtains, those are still the black people. Everybody you see all up through their house from the rafters to the damn basement, them is the white people. So anyway, the point, so I don't even know if they would put a sign up because it might block the view of their entire house in the middle of the night. But the point is this. Curtains? I mean, is this a foreign? Now I got to go research district curtains in Europe. But the point is this. When you see, they want to split Nashville into 3 separate districts. Why? Because now they got a shot flipping blue Nashville. Y'all gonna flip blue Nashville? So much so that Cooper said, shit, I ain't even gonna run again. So the chair of the committee where Congressman Clyburn is saying, let's make Lift Every Voice and Sing the national hymn. And I'll end with this on this after I say this. There's one other thing after this. The chair of the subcommittee is Steve Cohen, who says, well, he says this will maybe bring us together. And, you know, I certainly hope that, you know, perhaps that's true. Cohen lives in a state where the white nationalists are running rampant, trying to cut out another person. And this man over here introducing legislation to bring us together. Cooper knows, Cooper does too, but Cohen, the chair of the committee, he was testifying before yesterday, Clyburn. No, it's a lie. No, it's a joke. So then finally, this is the last point on this, so we can move on real quick. I just want to mention it in terms of Clyburn, because I ain't mad at Clyburn, because I understand that generation. And when you're coming near the end, some people on their deathbed may not say for a recording and tell them God is real. You know, God of our weary years. You know that God, right? God of our silent tears. Yeah, God is real. Some people are going to say, how will they remember me? Who is they? God? No, God. These people who I've suffered under and marched and fought and tried to get them to see my humanity. You know those people. What you think about them? Oh, bruh, I understand now. I'm sorry. Stop thinking about them. Be here. Be focused. Stay focused. Be here. Remember, you went to South Carolina State. You're a bulldog. The Orangeburg Massacre. You understand what happened in South Carolina. Bruh, come on, Congressman. You're a good brother. You know the history. Come on, brother. No national hymn. And here's where it fails. You can't have no national hymn in a settler state. There is no nation. There are many different nations in this settler state. You think the Choctaw, you think the Seminole, do you think the Creek, do you think the Cherokee, do you think the Iroquois, you think that any of them people would say, take our song and make it the national hymn? Hell no, because they're the home team. They're the ones that got rolled on. We don't want this. Look at the people. Look at the people. I know you wondering what they're doing. We just standing there watching you make a fool. I pity the fool. What are you doing? Did you ain't never sang verse 3 of that anthem. Here's what I want. Before you speak on making this the national hymn, 2 things you need to do. Number 1, you go look at a place where they put a war anthem with a hymn as their national song and see how that worked out. I'm going to give you where to look rather than have you go research it. I know you know it. That would be South Africa. That would be South Africa. Of course, they seek Africa. God bless Africa. They mashed it up with that old white nationalist hymn, anthem. I'm sorry, the difference between a hymn and an anthem. One talking about fighting, the other one talking about God. They don't. It's like, oh, let's make this oil and water. The hell. And then in the testimony, was it the head of the board of NAACP? I think it was. Oh my God. Yeah, do you know the history? Do you read Imani Perry's book on Lift Every Voice and Sing? Have you looked at the history? Do you understand that at one time the NAACP adopted Lift Every Voice and Sing as their official song? James Weldon Johnson was the first black secretary of the NAACP. He and his brother James Rosemont coming out of Jacksonville, Florida. Do you even know the history? The guy who's over the board, chair of the board of NAACP, said, well, we're not talking about replacing the national anthem. Oh, I would have said, excuse me, you ain't got to worry about that. Hireling and slave, in case you needed a reminder, that's you. And the second thing in that I would say is, before you not say make this the national hymn, why don't you go sing the 3rd verse of the national anthem with your hand over your heart, one of them lapel pins that ain't disguising the fact that nobody will ever trust you, black, because they ain't looking at the lapel pin or the flag. They're looking at the lapel pin of your face. So the whole point is that you could get shot too by the patter rollers. So when you got your hand, I want you to sing hireling and slave. I want to hear it come out your mouth. Not just the first verse. They trained us sing all 3 verses of the so-called Black National Anthem. Forget Black National Anthem. Negro hymn. Negro national hymn. Clyburn understands that. You can't have a hymn. Why? Because last time I checked, the God of the settler colony called United States, yeah, that ain't the God my mama was praying to. They ain't the one to tell them God is real. Yeah, she ain't talking about the God of capitalism. She's not talking about the God of materialism. She's not talking about the God of racism, white supremacy. Because see, the God that they used to have us praying to, that God is white. And it ain't just in terms of skin color, because God knows the day that I thought I would see a black Jesus in Cane Avenue Baptist Church, where I grew up, where the church fans and everything else had that hippie looking dude with the lamb under one arm and the heart out in front of him with the thorns around it, glowing and shit, scaring shit out of children. Now, all that stuff's gone. It's beautiful. Now it's black. I love it. We didn't grow up, but that ain't even the point. We're not talking about iconography now. We're talking about spirituality and concepts. And Congressman, you can't have a national hymn in the United States of America because there is no nation. We do not believe in the same thing. And if you're going to pray to the same thing they praying to, well, hell, you might as well run out there and say, shoot me now. Just say, you should say, this is a bill called Shoot Me Now. They don't give a damn. They don't give a damn. Maybe they'll vote for it. And once they vote for it, you be like, yes. Wait, what? I'm sorry. I just saw on my phone that they killed a black woman. They kicked in her door, blew her brains out, and said, oh, my bad. How that hymn working out for you, though? Maybe we'll get there and sing the hymn. Can we sing the hymn? You mad? Oh, that's them silent tears. But you didn't stay focused. So now what you praying for? Another generation to do what you just did? Oh, as my cousin Lane said yesterday, my mom bite said, Mama Carr, Auntie used to say to me, Lane, you know, you gotta be careful who you following behind. And then Lane said, it's like that story. The little boy look at his daddy and said, Daddy, how can I follow in your footsteps when you just walking everywhere, all around? Can't nobody follow in your footsteps, Congressman, if you just walking all around. And certainly if it's a straight line of them, we're gonna say, you see them footsteps there? Good. Got it? Okay, now we're going that way. Do you understand? I'm gonna start with okay. I shouldn't do that because I respect the elder, but damn.
Well, you do what you do, which is to tell the truth. I remember sitting in class with Carr and realizing it was a phenomenon when certain people, when we started opening it up for questions, and then people popped in, and I was like, I didn't know they were watching. And since you're talking about music, let me bring in a music Grammy nominated, award-winning, amazing person, and got that temple connection with you, Miss Jean Baylor.
Congratulations, Jean. Y'all been rocking and rolling, y'all. What's going on?
Hello. Thank y'all. Yeah, listen, it's been a good year or two, and we just trying to keep it going. But
before you say anything, tell the people, maybe some people in here who don't know what's been going on since the first time we talked. Tell us.
Yes. So my husband and I have a group band, a jazz band called the Baylor Project.
A group called the Baylor Project. You know, maybe
y'all heard it. Little bit group. And our first record was nominated for 2 Grammys, and our second one and it's interesting because the first one was called The Journey. Yes. And then the second one that we put out just last year, about 6-7 months ago, is called Generations. And that got nominated for Best Jazz Vocal Grammy. So we'll see what it's going to do in April. And we got nominated for NAACP Image Award as well. So it's been some good times. So, and 20-something, maybe 30 years ago, I'm losing count now.
You lose count, right?
Yeah, I'm like, where is it?
It's like, where did them 30 years go? Anyway,
I don't know where they went, but I was R&B duo Zhane. Yeah, so I transitioned out of R&B and jazz. I mean, we just do R&B too because we got nominated for R&B Grammy like 2 years ago. So things have been really, really, really good. But I'm just excited to be a part of your 100th episode and to congratulate y'all because this has been an amazing journey, just kind of seeing y'all just started, just having a conversation, and we need to go live, and everybody like, what is it? Oh my God. And I already told you, first time I tuned in, I was looking at you and I said, oh, that's some nice tile behind him and then I was like, that ain't tile, those are books. I was like, dang, how many books again?
Okay, Kai, you hear that? You hear me, Jean? I am a book hoarder, but there's a purpose.
There's a purpose. Because I'm always looking at homes. I'm like, that's a nice tile. Like,
nice
that's
tile,
not tile.
Right?
No.
My wallpaper is books, right?
I love it. But I want to just celebrate y'all because y'all have literally, like, y'all are being a huge part of impacting an entire generation, the consciousness of a generation. And I already told you about my history woes. Like, I would be sleeping up.
Yes.
And I'm like, y'all got me like tuned up. Like, I need to check this out. I need to read this. I need to learn this, and starting to try to connect the dots. But you and Cameron are really, really impacting people in such a way where, like, I'm never going to be a historian or anything like that. I'm never going to be like a academic. Yes. I do what I do with music. I teach at Manhattan School of Music.
No question.
And I never wanted to do
it. Yes.
Those concepts. But let me tell you, y'all impact in such a way where I never heard the idea or concept of ways of knowing. But that's such an inherent part of our culture where I started like just teaching, and I'm going off because I didn't go to school for education. I went for performance. So I'm like, okay, here we go. We're going to figure this out. And I realized that I teach in a very intuitive way. And it came to me, I was like, that's what Dr. Carr was talking about, ways of knowing. Because I find different ways to explain the same information to different students based on any number of things, where they are, where they're coming from, where they're trying to go, who they are, blah, blah, blah. So y'all are like just impacting us in a way where it's going into different areas, like whether it's teaching or how we create music or even the idea of generations. I wouldn't, it's just, it came to me over a meal of sitting with some elders in their homes over a home cooked breakfast with some biscuits. And they were sharing stories of like the meter man, which I'd never heard of, with the refrigerator.
Meter man, read the meters. Yeah.
I was like, why did you have a meter on the refrigerator? And we were cracking up. And I'm like, I got it. I said, the album's going to be generations. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be this. And it, song by song, it came together. So y'all are real. Everything that y'all are doing is really like just impacting so many people in our everyday lives and what we do and what we put out in the world. And so I'm excited for y'all, and I'm excited to be here and celebrate it.
For us, seriously, to teaching, you reach more people. I think about K-12 teachers, university teachers, people go to school for education. But what you just described, that's the real teaching and learning. Sitting with those elders, having their food, and then the light goes on, and you get that with the Egyptians that say by eat. And then you go out and teach people. You'll never know. All of us listening to that music. So we're celebrating ourselves. And when you came on the first time, y'all both came on. I mean, people understand. I think that's one of the importance of spaces like this. It's important for us to see ourselves. You're holding up a mirror and people say, oh, me too? What do you mean you too? It's always us. Yes, it's always us. Stop listening to these people that say, okay, well, this is an expert, so you should listen to them. No, we grant authority based on somebody's developed capacity. We ignite. So those elders were entrusting you. Okay, you got it? Okay, go. I got it.
I got it.
Can we still vote for you for the NAACP, or is that closed? Is the voting
I don't
closed?
know.
All right,
I think it might be closed.
Okay.
Yeah. I have no idea if it's closed or not. I should know these things.
That is one of the central marks of the master teachers, humility.
Wow.
You asked her something, can we still vote for you? She said, oh, I don't know. I wasn't even thinking, I didn't make this for that. I'm glad we got it. I'm glad we moved. I don't even know if you can I can't.
And I love how you always tie music into everything. It cracks me up every time. I'd be like, there you go. And I grew up Baptist, so I know every darn hymn in the hymn book.
Lord.
She was singing right along with you. I was gonna pull her in.
Like, yeah.
Do a duet.
Not right along with me. It should have been instead of me, because we got somebody who can sing.
No, and let me tell you another time you blessed me.
Come on.
When I don't know what you were talking about, particular episode, but you brought in the hymn, the communion hymn. Let us break bread together on our and that is one of my favorite. We would sing that every first Sunday.
Will you, Karen? I know Jean, would you please? I know.
Yeah.
Would you please sing that song right now?
Yes. Let us break bread together on our knees. And my favorite part, because when you said this came from Islam, and I had no idea, when I fall on my knees with my face to the rising sun, oh Lord, have mercy on me. Listen here. I did not know about that. And when you said that, I already am in love with that song since I was a little girl. But when you said that, it again brought in that African consciousness of like, because I was like, man, we lost so much stuff. We lost so much. But in that song, we didn't lose that, even though we didn't actually know. No. When I fall on my face when I fall on my knees with my face to the rising sun, I was like, wow, we kept a piece of that lineage, even if we didn't even know it. That blessed me to this day.
Ashe, you just blessed us. You took me right back to where we were not old enough to take communion, because that was the communion song when they passed out the wine. You know what I'm saying?
Grape juice.
At least for us, the grape juice, right. We would stand in the same kitchen. My mom and sister Gentry used to prepare the grape juice. You couldn't get none until you joined the church. So how many black children, untold numbers, was saying, I'm gonna join the church to get at that juice? No, but that was the song. You took me. I was sitting outside. I did tear up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jean
Baylor. Love you so much.
Love you, Karen. Love you, Dr. Carr.
Greg, please. Love you. I love you, Jean.
That was dope.
Wasn't that something? By the way, that was I remember we talked about that. And I just happen to have Ancestors Don't Make No Mistakes. This is Michael Gomez's book, is Changing Our Country Marks, right? The transformation of African identities in the colonial and antebellum South. Brother Gomez up at New York University taught at Spelman for a while. Chapter 4 is called Praying on the Bead. Chapter 4, Praying on the Bead, Islam in Early America. Among other things, he's got a table in here, for example, percentage of Africans imported into North America from regions containing Muslim populations. The Senegambia, that's Phyllis Wheatley's people, where Senegal is now, almost 15%. Sierra Leone, 15.8%, almost 16%. Gold Coast, so-called Ghana now, Adjoa's people around here, 13%. Bada Benin, Bada Biafra, that's all Nigeria now, 28, almost 29%. What Jean just brought up, reminder from when we talked about that, was these Africans who were Christianized, they forced them into Christianity. Many of them were Muslims. One of the ways African Muslims hid their prayer practices from these dumb social structure white Christians who think they Christianizing them was to hide their prayer practices in the hymns. And when I fall on my knees with my face to the rising sun, it's the first prayer of the day for the Muslims. It's the first prayer of the day for the Muslims, but they hid it in the Christian song. Y'all, what was that? Karen, about a month and a half ago, as you were reading through Zora Neale Hurston? You don't know us Negroes. Stop trying to force a hymn on these people. Go to Congress and get them to pass laws to let us get a little bit closer to stopping them from killing us, Congressman, and stop talking about singing our songs to them. Thank you, Jean.
Thank you. Jean Baylor. Yes, the Baylor Project. Y'all got to check them out. And if you didn't vote, if the voting's still open, NAACP, Grammys, all of that, I'll drop the link. Good. Dante Stewart was in the chat. He was going to come in. He wrote a book, Shouting in the Fire.
Shouting in the Fire, yes.
And he came in with his children, but he had to pop out. He was in the airport. His flight got delayed. And
I'm sorry.
That's all right. We got a bunch of people in here.
Shouting in the Fire is doing a hell of a job.
Oh, my goodness.
In passing, this is the 5th. So we've got 23 more days of February, and you've talked about it in social media. Has been there. I haven't been on social media, y'all, since my mom made transition. Really, I'm coming back slowly, but at least to Twitter and doing that. But Marcus Garvey's physically surviving son, Dr. Julius Garvey, is leading the campaign. They made the petition to the White House live February 1st. It's only to the 28th. It's like as if they can narrow it, they can somehow not have to answer. We got to bust this out. 100,000 signatures required, and then come from anywhere. The whole point is Marcus Garvey, Dr. Julius Garvey. And I'm actually doing a thing tomorrow with him, my friend Nkechi Taifa, of course, the great lawyer, and Justin Hansford, another good brother who runs Thurgood Marshall Center at Howard, Paul Coates, and the Black booksellers, all the Black publishers. On Narrative, we got this extensive list of Black booksellers. Well, they formed a coalition. They are supporting this. We got to get people to go to the White House petition site and sign the petition, exonerate, no pardon, because he shouldn't have never been convicted in the first place. Exonerate Marcus Garvey. People say, well, why we do that? No, it's real simple for me. Dr. Julius wants it, so I want it. It's real simple. I mean, some of this stuff really don't overthink it in terms of ideology. If the man wants his daddy exonerated, I want his daddy exonerated. Marcus Garvey, you know what I'm saying? Wipe that man record name out your mouth. I don't even say write his record clean, because you don't keep the record in the social structure. We keep the record. You just heard Jean. We keep the record. But on your books, this to me is the equivalent of keep his name out your mouth. Keep his name out your nasty mouth. So we need 100,000 signatures. So let's get 1 million and just, so we ain't got to worry about it.
And this is easy, Biden. This is real easy.
Well, it was low hanging for the beige wonder, but he couldn't even sign it with his right hand on the way out the door. Shout out to Barack Obama. Anyway, we continue. I know y'all don't like me here with Barack Obama slander, but you better go read his record. You could have pardoned Marcus Garvey in your sleep, but you're so terrified of what they think. I pity the fool that falls in love with you.
Okay. I'm gonna drop the link. We should get those signatures today. I remember getting a text from someone. He was in the barbershop. I believe it was either Jersey City or Philly. And he said they are watching In Class with Carr and they're having this whole conversation. So let me bring my brother in, my brother from another mother. You hear him on Urban View. If you listen to Urban View, his show is amazing. The man does amazing work, and he has an exonerated series where he interviews people who are wrongfully convicted. He's got a new book coming out that I won't talk about until he talks about it. But let me welcome in Clay Kane. Can we hear you? We can't hear you. Oh no, we could have. Nope, can't hear you, Clay, and you're not muted. I don't know what it is.
Wait, was that something?
Nope, it's not muted. Not muted. Maybe it's the headphones. Take the headphones off.
Can you hear me?
There he is.
There we go.
Brother Clay.
Yo.
I see you repping the house, boy. I see you repping the house.
More house, right?
Gotta do that.
Yo, Miss Karen Hunter said it. I knew this show was a massive hit and so influential and so powerful when I'm in the barbershop and I see both y'all on the TV screen. And you know when the barbershop is for it.
Oh, no, that's it.
That's it.
Look. When the barbershop is for you, who can be against you, brother?
Exactly. But yeah, just seeing, I was like, yo, this is Dr. Carr and Professor. And they flipped and said, oh, you know them. And I sent the video to Karen and, yo, I just got to tell you, this has had a huge impact on me.
Oh.
It takes me back to my Black Studies days with Dr. Zhane Abdullah, who now teaches at Temple.
Yes.
He was my first Black Studies teacher at Rutgers University. It's just had a massive impact on me. And my favorite Dr. Carr moment, I can't remember how long ago it was, but you were talking about the importance of voting. But you lay it out in such a way, you make it plain, right? And you said that some of your friends who are Pan-Africanists or maybe more quote unquote radical, were against voting until they inadvertently got in the criminal justice system,
brother.
They were for voting.
And let me thank you for thank you for all the work you're doing, brother. Because what you're doing, Clay, by putting this right where we understand it, it demystifies. Look. I see, man, you got everybody back there. I see LaRon Bennett Jr., you got my man Ibram Kendi. Everybody's back there, man. You know what I'm saying? The Socialite and the Senator joined. That's the one. The Blaze Bruce, man. The Reconstruction joined. I'm not seeing. So you clearly, we can have a battle of ideas, but then when your cousin gets popped or your auntie something, they break in or they put some, man, what you're doing helps our people. Well, we know this, but just for everybody else, y'all bear witness and please, in terms of, I echo everything Karen said about you, brother. You know, we have to stand in the way when our people are in harm's way. Otherwise, don't call yourself a journalist. Don't call yourself a media. If you're just going for celebrity, be quiet. So I just want to say them same barbershops where they were watching, the two of us in this space, they listening to you too. And that's the barometer, because the people will know, as Kwame Ture would always say, the people will protect the people who fight for the people. And so I just want to thank you, brother. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I want to just add my thanks to Karen's for you, brother. So yeah, I'm glad. Wow.
Yeah, listen, my dream in life is to have a book collection like Dr. Carr. That's basically my...
We're going to put all these books together. That's the whole point. We're going to get a space, and then, when they come, say, yeah, you can come. That'll be free for you. Or Harvard, yes, you can come. You can't reproduce anything, and it'll be $8 billion. In fact, you just give us everything.
And I gotta say, you mentioned Dr. LaRon Bennett Jr.
Yes,
y'all did an amazing show on him, and you forced him to glory. This book had such a big impact on me.
Could you say something about that, really? Because I mean, did he ever come through? Did you ever get a chance?
I never met him, but when I was in college, I would argue with the teachers, and I would have this book in my hand.
Are you serious right now?
Oh, they hated me. They couldn't.
Oh, I know you were hated.
I had the book. I said, this is my textbook. They didn't appreciate it. But if you don't want a good story on Lincoln, a really good perspective on Lincoln from a scholar's perspective, and y'all did an amazing show on him. Yeah, just incredible. And I also want to quickly add, it's been such a year of loss, and not only on this show, but to hear the way that you talk about the ancestors and people who we lost. In about 2 months, it'll be the year anniversary of the beautiful Midwin Charles passing away.
Yes.
So when I hear about just the way that you're framing the transition,
yes,
it just helps me as somebody who's lost people during these crazy times.
Brother, I am so glad you said that, and I am really not only saddened by, of course, our sister Midwin Charles, because again, y'all are members of the craft. I mean, the idea that she is an ancestor now, though, that can be called on, that can be strengthened even in that next phase, it gives us some comfort, but it also reminds us that this is a temporary condition. Right. Did you know the young sister who made transition a couple of weeks ago there in New York? I know she's in the media world.
Yeah.
But she's kind of young. I don't know.
Chesley Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Suicide.
Yeah. But what happened with Midwin? I mean, that's just, you never know. None of us know the day or the hour, man.
Yeah, you never know. So, but the way that y'all talk about that transition has been so powerful for me, and I've passed it on to friends. And I just want to say congratulations, 100 shows, 100 more. This is so impactful. And Karen, I love you so much. I know Karen gets shy. She's like, listen. But I love you so much, and the platform that you've created. It almost reminds me of just the circle, and we have this circle in a different format right now, and because that's safety. But it's just so crucial, and what a beautiful thing. The pandemic has been so rough that this came out of it. What a beautiful thing.
Yes. Oh, thank you, man.
Clay, I'll see you in them Urban View streets rolling down, or because you ain't never really gone. So
I never really gone.
No, 1 p.m. Eastern on Urban View. If you've never heard them, you're missing a lot. One of the best in the business. Love you.
Love you too.
Love you, brother. Much respect. Yes. Wow.
Since we're talking about ancestors, of course, Amir Locke, who you mentioned, and somebody in the chat said it's ironic that his name was Locke, and they busted through under the covers, man. Under the covers, 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:48 in the morning, getting bullets and just who gets me, who got me with it, as you could imagine, because then of course again Minneapolis. So I text Angie, was it? And so she walked, and she'll never get too high. Yeah, exactly. She'll never get too high, never get too low. But it's just that even narration that just infuriates you. She says, "This man, he had a gun because he was and I mean, damn, you can't get. I'm gonna say less. Just read Ida B. Wells, as you said. Read what Ida B. Wells say. All right, and today, ironically, February 5th, since we're celebrating our 100th, also another ancestor, Trayvon Martin, would have been 27. Today's his birthday.
Well, no, is 27.
Is 27.
And is old, and also has many more years beyond that, because we don't even mark the physical years anymore, because he is a young ancestor too soon. But again, whether it's 20, not 27. What was that? 95?
Yeah.
So how old was he? I'm trying to remember. 95, 05. We just passed the 10 year. We just passed the 10 years. So I guess 17, 16.
Yeah.
The whole idea that whether it's 16 to 17 years or 93 years, we all going that way. And the fact that George Zimmerman still walks the earth and is in the fraternity with Kyle Rittenhouse, other killers, and every damn cop in the whole damn country and world who abuts them, and not the ones who say something and get fired, like the brother in Louisiana and them, because somebody got to stand up and say it. But all you silent ones, God of your silent tears, but they ain't gonna stop. Now we'll see with this current mayor of New York. But
I think we need to have a conversation in Nubia, because I think something's up. All the GoFundMe pages just ready, to support millions of dollars pouring in to support these killers.
Support these killers, yeah. But the only thing I was gonna say real quick though is that his mother. Have you talked? I'm sure you have.
Yep. Sabrina Fulton.
What's your sense of that, sister?
Powerful woman. And again, somebody that just, not just advocating for her son, she ran for office. She's in the paint every day. But I don't know what that would feel like to lose your baby, 17 years old, because somebody didn't see him as a human being.
Right.
He wasn't in the right neighborhood, but it was his neighborhood. He was in his neighborhood, but because of the color of his skin and he a hoodie or whatever, somebody decided he wasn't a human being. But the same thing happened to Ahmaud Arbery. So we're seeing this repeat over and over again, and it can't be a coincidence, and it's not happen chances. It's not it's not just happening. It's willful.
That's right.
And it's another kind of pandemic that we're going through. But
that's right. Well, now the reason I ask you is because I know, she's come to DC. Well, she's been to DC many times, of course, as a lobbyist, and I just remember how powerful the first time I had a chance to, not just be around her, but sit and listen to her. Again, not rah-rah, not a lot, just that kind of real, and then say, justice would be me being able to celebrate my son's birthday with him here. And so on his birthday, what you just said is so, and it's the kind of thing that makes you say, no, sis, you do whatever you want to do. We can go out here and murder everything moving. Because when people
figuratively,
no, yeah, we ain't talking about physically. Because guess what? We all gonna die. And all this treatment, every cop that kills or everybody that kills somebody, guess what? You may have shortened their physical life, but you're gonna die too. You're not going to save your physical life by trying to end somebody else's life. You're not going to extend your physical life by cutting off somebody's food stamps or by not giving them personal protection equipment. You're not going to extend your life by denying them health care or education. All you're going to do is make your own miserable life that much more miserable in the now, while you are somehow obsessing over somehow what's going to happen. Guess what? We return to the dirt. You're not going to save yourself. And if you believe what you say you believe with that fake Christianity, I'm not going to call it fake Christianity. Guess what? If you believe what you say you believe, when you do get on the other side, guess what you're going to find out? As Catherine Carr said, yes, God is real. And that's going to scare that out of you when you get on that side. See, because the Egyptians say you got something waiting for you over there when you do the wrong thing over here. So next time you kick in a door and you wearing a crucifix while you killing somebody, I think you just wrote your ticket. If what you believe is the thing that happens, you better anyway.
Early in this session, this 100th episode, you brought up a name, and this brother you introduced us. He popped in a Q&A, and then you introduced him to us, and he's been working with me on the hub.news doing pieces from Brazil, letting us know what's happening in Brazil. And I think he's trained by you, an amazing human being.
No, we were partners. We were partners. Now, look, the hand on his shoulder is Daniel Black. Same hand that's on mine. You know what I'm saying? That's our Jegna. Say, what's up, baby?
Hey, what's happening? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Cedric took a picture of my mom when Jeremiah Wright was in town. He sent it to me, and I tell you, she's praying with her, oh man, Cedric, man, I love you so much, man. Your gifts are just without bounding, man. And that, thank you. I look, my sister and them, everybody gives you our love, brother. How are you doing, man? How's everybody?
And my love to all of y'all, and my love, my thanks to your mother. Because well, man, I don't know where this proverb is from, but they said paradise lies beneath the feet of your mother, and I think about that when I think about all, because I'm gonna be honest, man, like Karen is right, like I consider you one of my mentors and fathers, but I gotta admit though, man, because you probably know about half of them. Man, Black women saved my life, man. Like every step of the way. It's just something that can't be denied,
brother.
So I know your mom was a great woman to a whole world of people, and man, I'm with you. I'm with you and your family.
I know you are. Hey, y'all, for those of you, I mean, we could talk about it. We'll have to one day. You know what said? Because, I mean, in addition to so much else, man, all the generations that you have shaped and helped to shape, all the people who, you know, who we don't have a good system of helping people understand the impact we've had in each other's lives. But I wish I could say that to you who talk about you now. I was talking to Shanice the other day. You know, she's Shanice down at Bowie State. She a professor, man. This little rough neck. You gotta hold up back in that. But I think about, I remember when, for those of you who don't know, at one point, one of the many places Cedric has come through, the Children's Defense Fund. I remember we came to Knoxville, and you were involved in the leadership with the, you know, with freedom schools, nationwide freedom schools. And one of those trips, my mom came up to get me. I was gonna meet them. I was in Tennessee anyway. Y'all flew us in, and I was gonna go home, Nashville. She said, "No, I'm gonna come up and see." So she came to Knoxville low key, just to watch. You know what I'm saying? And I remember all the good people who have worked for years with Freedom School movement and other folk. The one thing I want to say though to you publicly is that your character, your not only commitment to our people, but your lived walk through the world with that, again, that even temperament, that calmness, but that ability to elicit from other people a kind of similar ability to see that in their lives and model you. It's without bound, and it's also had a powerful impact on me. I love you so much, brother.
Man, I love you too. And you know, folks need to know. I mean, you know me since, I mean, I was a young man. I don't think I've been a child since 11.
Right. Yeah,
I explain to people, they don't believe it, but like my first job, you know, I'm from Bennettsville, from the PD region of South Carolina, along the river.
Yes,
and my first job, nobody wants to believe it, but if you're from there, you know, my first job was picking tobacco on a farm behind a tobacco truck, and like with grown people, like shucking tobacco, like for real. That was my first job. That's when I decided I wanted to go to college. I didn't really know what college was, but I was like, I can't do this.
But it ain't this, right?
So
what's the not this? College? Okay,
right. It wasn't long after that you know, freedom schools, and even back then, I think the Algebra Project was, you know, experimenting in our town, luckily, and you know, I got set up on my path. But you know, I met you not very long after, and I'm probably sure you were watching me before then, because I had no idea. You know, I had no idea that you were connected with Dr. Black and you know, and so I mean, it's an honor, and to be here now and to be able to connect and to keep it going. I got to thank you, and I got to thank Karen for this work, because I'm got to tell you, man, it gives me a lot of hope, because it is hardcore over here, and I appreciate Karen for giving me a platform for, you know, beginning to even think about how to express this message to our folks there. And thank you, of course, for giving so much of the language and perspective along the way. I mean, when we talk about you know, how we look at these structures, that framework you have works so very well here, because what it deals with is, you know, our understanding of who we are as Black people, but at the same time, it explains to us that whiteness is an ongoing project too. And you can't forget that, because if you forget that, then you won't understand why you can't get out the mud. And you got to say, like, no, they are evolving it too. You know, they are, you know, maintaining the system, developing the system, but they have to change what whiteness is too. So that's the only way to keep on top. And when you see it work here, this is the thing. And so, and I appreciate Karen. I want to thank you, Karen, for letting me, you know, working with y'all and let me, you know, experiment with this, because it's really important. And Dr. Carr, you know me, man. I'm for a long time, basically, I was just a mercenary. If it's a fight, you know, just tell, you know, y'all fighting over here. All right.
But a mercenary on the side of righteousness, though. That's
yeah. Nah, you know, I mean, I work for free half the time, but you know,
half the time.
I was just a scrapper. I'm a scrapper.
Yeah, no question.
Just give me whatever weapon is left, and let's go to work. And but now you know me, and now if I was a young man before, now I'm a older man. Now I'm making my own thing, and so the Atlantic Archives is what we're developing here, and I know you'll be proud of it. We are. So I've taken all that stuff I collected over this nonprofit journeyman experience, and especially with philanthropy and finding out what white folks prioritize. And one of the things I've learned, and I've seen the checks go out the door.
How about that?
Donors,
yes,
they have a special place in their heart for certain types of institutions and theaters and museums, but anything related to archiving, and we know why, because, and so, I decided that we would use that as a framework because it allows us to reflect and learn about who we are, preserve our cultures and the endangered parts of our culture here and abroad, because it's a transnational setup, and use their money to do all of it. And so that's what I'm working on now. And we use the archives, mostly visual archives, but a lot of other formats, new traditional archival formats. I have some photographers here from the Black movement in Brazil.
Oh, really?
Yeah, who have some tremendous archives. And we have a lot of young people who represent a lot of different young intersectional identities that are developing their digital archives. And so we use that intergenerational, all those lessons. I'll bring all of that to the fore here. So it's an incubator. I teach them, all of what I've learned. And I ask my people, like, look, the dollar is 5.5 to 1. What you want to do, if you want to be an ally, if you want to be in the true transnational, international diasporic community, is you need to reposition. We need to reposition ourselves. There's no Black middle class here. There's a system here that if you had to be here for 5 minutes, you would switch your return ticket and come right back home, and you would wear your capoeira t-shirt or whatever, and you pretend like you connected with, you have your Orisha, necklaces or whatever, but you ain't a brother or sister in the diaspora because you have not dedicated yourself politically. And so this is it tests your Pan-Africanism, in a real way.
I know that's right.
So like that, they know they have all of the references. Angela Davis's books, pretty much anything about Black liberation is published in Portuguese here, but we don't always see the same thing in reverse. So that's another part of Atlantic.
That's very true, man.
Another part of Atlantic Archives this year, we are going to be working on reversing or changing, or at least sort of balancing that knowledge pipeline. So I got about 3 young sisters here who are in college, which is a feat in and of itself, because the majority of the population here is Black, but they represent maybe less than 5% of college enrollment. They make it very hard to
even at the Federal University in Bahia.
Oh, absolutely, especially there. Like
especially
there. That's why I got to thank Karen again, because it's a long learning process to understand, because you just won't believe it, especially coming from the United States and knowing the progress that's been made as far as representation. There's a majority of Black people here. There's over 200 million Black people here, but there's not one Black governor. This week, I'm changing up the format a little bit of the article that I'll be putting up on the Hub, and I'm actually getting some real voices of folks here. So I'm interviewing a sister who's from the favelas. She's a scientist, PhD in science. She started the first Black school for kids in Brazil.
No, sir. No, sir.
The first Black school is where my son goes to school.
Are you serious?
Just 2 years old. Yeah, the first black school. Yeah, I know. It's
so all those years of like I did Nascimento and all them, they never had a school.
No.
What?
No, this is an apartheid state. It's crazy here. That's what I keep trying to tell folks. So the dialogue has to happen. Yes. And it's really a lot of education. And so I'm sending about I'm trying to raise money to send 3 young sisters to the United States. I got a couple partners there to help already to present their intellectual work to audiences there too, within Black intellectual circles, HBCUs, and other places, and to just slowly start to build this dialogue between Blacks in the Americas. And it's extremely important. I really want to challenge the idea that Brazil is arguably the center of the Black diaspora. I mean, if you just wanted to count numbers alone from the beginning of this nightmare until now, most of the Black people went there. I mean, it's just a fact.
No question about it. No question.
5 million Black people. So like, what do you do with that? And now there's so much to talk about. Language is a big issue, but I figure that's one of the reasons why I'm here, is to help with that. So there's a lot going on. And I owe it to you, and I owe it to Karen, especially recently, and who's been allowing me. So this week, I'm supposed to be working on it right now. I'm in the middle of my Comps River 2, trying to finish this piece.
That's right.
So,
you're in the middle of Comps doing this.
But next week, the article would be up with some video of this sister talking about the school. It's called Maria Filipa School. Maria Filipa was a Black ex-slave warrior fighter who helped free the northeast of Brazil, here where all the Black people are. Yes. And it's a good way, because the most important thing that you guys have helped me with developing this platform, and Karen with allowing me to write a little bit about Brazil, is I gotta convince my brothers and sisters there that Brazilians are Black, like regular Black. There ain't no Afro-Latino. There ain't no Latino in Brazil. When you are here, there is Preto, which is Black, Negro, which is political Black, and there's Branco, which is white. That's it. There are indigenous people who live, out in the rainforest, but there are Black people here. So every day when I go out, especially if I'm picking up my son, I got on ball shorts, they think I'm from here.
Of course. I
have had plenty of people try to put their hands on me because it is basically plantation logics here. So it's dangerous. And when I explain, when I talk, then they're like, oh, you are okay. You're not one of our Blacks.
Damn.
You're from the United States. So there is a social hierarchy here. So there's a Black struggle, and it's a real struggle. And I think it will open up our eyes as to what the future of Black people is like, can be like globally. But we gotta really do some education on our end, because they know all about us.
Yeah, we need you, Cedric. I mean, and we talk about this, again, we got narrative and Nubia. I mean, maybe have an extended conversation as to if and when there were connections that were, I'm certain, severed intentionally. Because when I think of Nascimento and those connections, he spent time here in the States. I'm like, these people waged war to stop that. And of course, you remember the only time I've been to Brazil, we went there in, I guess, 2005 or 6. We went with your images. It was your Freedom School images in a room full of
crazy, ironic,
man. Yeah. And I'm saying, what happened between? Because we left thinking, okay, we're gonna get some, and then it's almost like you're saying, but they.
I'm gonna tell you what happened. What happened? The same thing that happened. They assassinate people on the daily, man. Like, it's dead serious. I mean, Brazil was in a probably right before you came. Brazil was in a dictatorship. Yes. So they have military police present. So it's an exaggerated version of what we see as the state protecting its own interest in as it relates to Black people having independence. And then also the representation is a huge part of it. There's like 1 or 2 Congress people in the whole country that are Black, and maybe only one of them identifies as Black. One of the recent state reps from Rio de Janeiro was a sister, a young lesbian sister, and she was tragically murdered a couple of years ago, Marielle, and that got some international press.
I say, of
and
course,
so
even her name is not known like it should be.
No, so what it requires on our end is kind of in the way that we sort of, I think the reference that we have are a lot of the Central African sort of histories and South African histories, when we can imagine a Black population that faces a certain high level of violence. That's kind of how you have to begin looking at it. The problem is there is, we have this shield in front that is the brand of Brazil, which is about harmony and racial democracy, and they're going on vacation. And so it kind of prevents us. Right. We just don't want to, because we want to believe that there's a Black paradise here, but it is absolutely not a Black paradise. It's beautiful. I mean, we enjoy ourselves, and there's lots to celebrate. You mentioned earlier about, you're talking about who is who when you're talking about the hymns, and I mean the gods have Black faces here. That's pretty cool. That helps a lot. Right. that helps a whole lot. Man. But yeah, it's about, it's really about representation, and of course that's related to education and all those other things. And so there's a special relationships that I think that can be had. And I this is no shade on anybody, but I see a lot of my brothers and sisters who can find the rationale and the philosophy and even a sort of a spiritual link with our brothers and sisters in Palestine and their struggle. And if you can make that connection, then you can make the connection.
No, for sure. No, we gotta. Yeah,
you can advocate for that. You can go pick up a rock and go over there.
How about that?
You can
at that point, what happens then. Mark, till we tell about it, they're trying to end you like he's man.
They can't end all of us. And once we get very clear about what it is we need to do, and this is part of the thing, that has emerged out of In Class with Carr over these last 100 episodes, meeting Cedric and then thinking, we need to hear what's going on there. So, just like Bezos owns the Washington Post, I created the Hub News so that we could have a space that, again, is not bossed or bought by anybody. It's ours.
Yes.
And we can start to build brick by brick. Y'all are watching in real time the evolution of us creating institutions that we need. We need to have a media arm. We need to have a place where we can tell our stories no one's telling Cedric how to write this piece because he's there. No one's telling him the story.
Real cool about it.
I mean, I remember being at the Daily News and my editor told me what the story was before I even left the building. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay. So, but it shapes how you write when somebody already gives you the blueprint, right?
Yeah,
so
thank you very much, Karen. Thank you thank you for just even being open to it, because it really is we really got to break through a lot of what we think that we know. It's especially the ones of us who do have a certain consciousness.
Yes.
When I tell you Brazil is a blind spot, it is a blind spot that will revolutionize the way that Black people see themselves in the world. It truly is, because we think that we know what it is, and we think that it's something that's not Black, and it might be the Blackest thing. Brazil, by the way, has the most Black people outside of every country except Nigeria.
Yeah.
I mean, even Africa. Even the rest of Africa.
You have more than Ghana?
Yes.
More than everywhere but Nigeria.
Look at that.
And by Nigeria, and it's growing. And you know how many Black people in Nigeria, but it's growing.
It's like everybody in Africa and Nigeria except 8 people. I shouldn't even say that, because I no Nigerians and no Oz.
Oz won't speak to that.
Oz is here. Okay.
Actually, Brazil is on, because in addition to doing everything that we're doing in the Nubians, by the way, because I'm in the Nubian chat, they want to know how they can support Atlantic Archives, because that's what they do.
Yeah, please. Just first of all, add us on Instagram. That's the main one that we're on. I'm still working on the website. If you want to give, trust me, this is the one thing that I learned. I'm not a money guy, but I will take care of our money when I have to. One of the things I think is good for folks to know who want to be charitable is that you got to take advantage of the way that the currency converts. So the American dollar, it may not be strong there, but it's very strong here. So one American dollar is almost 6 of the dollars here, which means we can do a lot of work with that. And it truly is a crisis here. One of the organizations that I work with that I'll profile later is called Bayer Streets. It's a woman, Hita Cliffy. She named herself after the reggae singer during their Black movement, a warrior during the Brazilian Black movement here. But she was a photographer, so we're working on her archive, which is a huge archive about the Black movement there. But she has had a organization for Black girls who live, on the streets for 27 years. Was their anniversary last week. And so I'm working in partnership with them. And so that money goes to help direct. It's all direct service. You know me, Dr. Carr. Of course. I'm on the road, that's those are my people. So it goes there and we are all accountable. I've been working in philanthropy and nonprofit for 20 years now, at least. Yeah. And so I'm very proud of being able to make sure that folks feel like they are connected to the people that they want to help, and doing it all in ethical ways as well. That's why I'm taking my time to sort of develop this arm. But there's one more thing, Karen, that I want to mention today that will come out in the next couple of months or so, but I'm taking my time doing it. There are actually a lot of HBCUs and a lot of Black churches that come to Brazil, because people do begin to understand. They find out that one fact about how Brazil has all these Black people, and they say, well, I want to go. They find out that Brazil has, they have these Yoruba religions and they worship these Black gods. They say, well, I want to go. They call it a little Africa, how they put all the names. So they go to Pelourinho, which is the city center, which comes from the word pelor, which is basically a whipping post, but not everybody knows that. They see the Brazilian women with the big extravagant clothes on. They don't realize, just like Charleston or anywhere else, it's a slave narrative that's sort of been turned into a 21st century sort of amusement park. But you know how it is. We got to even go there to connect with our history. Those churches, those HBCUs, those groups, they do come. But when they come, this place is so unfair. Nobody here, these Black people don't have businesses. I mean, they have lower level businesses, but the people who take those businesses, there's one guy, I am going to crush this guy. There's one guy, he's a Spaniard. He has been here for a long time. He has a tour company. He has contracts with these HBCUs, with these churches. They come, he pays, he gets all the Brazilians, friends of mine, gives them pennies on the dollar to do the tours. And he racks up all that money. I know these are people I know. It's a big city, but a small city. It's like Philly. And but what we don't know, we think we're dealing with somebody because we think we're, dealing with a Brazilian, or they're all kind of mixed race anyway. No, you use the same Black business, Black community principles that you use there. Here, the problem is translating that, and that's what I'm here for. So as soon as I get things set up, I got all
Travel
those
agent,
contacts.
let's go.
All
and what's your cash app?
Morehouse College, class of 2000.
Yes.
Yes. I know that you want to come to Brazil, especially after pandemic. Let's talk about how we can do that and have some ethical tourism, have some Black dollars circulating around the world. So just look out for that. My cash app is Atlantic Archives as well. And that's all that's at the Instagram. And just ask, you can always communicate with me. This is what I'm doing. And if folks have ideas, we have done a couple of online engagements with the archivists that I work with, a bunch of young folks. We were dealing with intersectional and LGBTQ archives, and archives of folks that live out in the hinder parts who come from Quilombo family lines and have been preserving their family archives, and the Tejeros and I'm trying to, what happens is they create their own community archives, and I connect them with the global archival community, so they can get grants from the Library of London and all of these other places that do preservation grants around the world, because these are endangered cultural artifacts. And so
And they retain control.
So they create organizations based on their own archives, because we can't count on the government here, and they may or may not even be able to receive an education half the time because we don't know what the government is going to do. So forget about your nation. We got another nation, and this other nation that we have.
Right.
All I need to do is make sure that I connect the community here with the community there that has this understanding and this consciousness.
Lastly, Adjoa, because she's heavily connected, wants to know how much money do you need? You're raising money. How much?
This year we're working on the because to be honest, I'm gonna be honest. This is all my money. I can't say too much because some of it I don't know if it's legal.
Of course.
But the fellowships that I get, and we know the names. And you know who these people, where it comes from.
Sure.
Whatever money I can get from the systems in the United States that's supposed to be for area studies, to broaden the School of America's objectives from a while back. Exactly. I use all that money. I use all that money for this program. And so, but that's what I've been doing. Like that's what all of my career has been, is to learn how to get money. Wow. But we need more. We don't have money for operations. I have money to give these kids some short-term jobs and to help establish their archives. This year, if we're just talking about the exchange program with the young Black women and Heather's archive, which is money for our basis of operations, because she already has a building. I can hire 2 people, not me without a salary, but I can hire 2 people and send those kids to the United States.
Said, what's the amount?
$20,000. For $20,000, I could do that program easily. So I haven't established an official fundraiser yet. I just got to get a couple of things in line. But yeah, it's not a lot of money. So if there are angel investors, especially people who work in technology, I can break down every single part of what we need. Dr. Carr can tell you that.
Oh yeah.
do that, because closed mouths don't get fed. Ask for what you want. The universe is out there. Mackenzie Scott giving away all Bezos' money.
Let's go. Yeah, I need to get. I gotta get her on the line for real, because we can do a lot. We can do a lot here, and honestly, if you just go to UNESCO, you'll see that Brazil's listed under several genocidal.
No question.
Categories. So it's serious. It's serious. I can't talk about all of it because it's so bad that I have to switch up my articles every couple of weeks to talk about something light. But it's hardcore, Karen. It's hardcore.
I know.
Anything anybody cares about with Black people, Black women, Black maternal health, LGBTQ, kids who are in the foster system, political shit, anything. I mean, honestly, education. Anything that you care about with Black people, police violence, get me started. All of that's here, and they're real live people here who are ready to work. So I want to sort of stand in the gap with them. And talk to our people to join in the fight together. So I appreciate, once again, congratulations. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you for remembering me, for thinking about me. I appreciate you for listening.
We together.
Carr, Craig, come on, bro. We talk offline. I'll tell you what you mean to me. Karen, I just say thank you, and I just ask you to just kind of always keep, a door open, to know what's happening here, because it's gonna get live. It will get live.
And on that note, be safe.
Thank you.
Yes.
And say less. All right. Love you. Love you.
Love you, bro. Love to the family.
And the Yara he's talking about is the Yara. And the Yara came through. She's the editor who does all of the things that keep the hub.news. What you see with the hub.news, and shout out to Ahmad who just redesigned. He's also working with us in Nubia and Narrative. Ahmad, brilliant, who was studying under Uraeus and bringing his own thing to the table. Just an amazing human being. We could not do any of this by ourselves. And the narrative. The narrative concept came about with Kareem and I. Kareem Graves and I were sitting around talking about reestablishing my publishing house.
Yes.
Years before you and I met.
Yes.
And then it just evolved when in class happened, we needed a platform. And Narrative with the K is silent, just It was just perfect. So, and then I met Carl, because we do this Healthy Wealthy Wise that Dr. Carr, we're going to be doing next month. We're going to be seeing each other for the first time in 2 years. I cannot
wait.
Talking
about it in Nashville.
Oh, it's going to be lit, and it's sold out. So that's why I don't talk about it anymore. Yeah, it's all sold out. But you know, I reached out to Carl because I wanted to do a virtual one, and Carl is in this space, and he knows how to navigate and manage. He's got super contacts, and I wanted to find a gaming company to build out a spades app because we got to play cards online. And then when I saw what Carl was bringing to the table, I was like, well, I gave him the idea for narrative, and he was like, put a team together, among whom was Urias. Wow. I mean, Carl brought all of these pieces to the table and found, helped us build the platform, narrative in Nubia. The structure of that is because of Carl Venato. So, and then he, brought Cornell West to the table. Like he's, there's all these unseen people.
Wow.
You see us, you see us, but none of this happens.
You don't see us.
Just with us. Right.
It's all of us. That's right. Oh,
and we truly are one. And to have Nubia and narrative, and I consider him like the elder statesman of Nubia, because he came in, and again, it makes that connection that was talking about. We do not just exist in America. We don't just exist in our state or in our city. No. We are a global we are a global community, and and we don't just it's like. We don't see that. And all this commentary, I get ADOS, with reparations. I get it.
I get it too. Absolutely.
But it just divides until we get there. Let's have that conversation when it's time for the money to get divided. But right now we got to be united across all fronts.
And let's not have amnesia. I mean, this is not the whole question of American descendants of slavery or foundational Black Americans. And this isn't, there is absolutely nothing being debated now in those spaces that hasn't been debated for centuries, not even decades. When we don't have the momentum of memory, we think we're coming up with a novel argument. That's simply not true. And I think the more, and so to me, it becomes a question of, are we serious? Because if you're serious, you'll understand, okay, what conclusions did we come to last time? How did it impact us? As you always say, as we talk about Sister Sonia, how do it free us? And then let's move forward. But if you're not, I'm not going to question anybody's motive. I'm not going to question anybody's investment in time. What I question is the soundness of not building for the momentum of memory. And so whether it be the ADOS arguments, and there are ADOS arguments that are not labeled ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery, or Foundational Black Americans, or anything notion that's question indigenous Black, or not even indigenous. I don't want to use the word indigenous because but there are arguments that are being made Black. I kind of group them all under a broader, maybe umbrella of Black nativism. And Black nativism isn't exclusive to the United States. In other words, the idea that I will express a fidelity to and commitment to, however jacked up it is, the place I came out of my mother's womb. I think citizenship is an absurd concept in some ways when you limit human identity to the political relationship to the land formation you happen to have been born in. But that kind of nativism, when it looks like Jamaican or Haitian, when it looks like Brazilian, when it looks like Argentinian or Bolivian or Colombian, instead of, yes, I was born here, yes, I'm struggling with local politics, but I also am connected to a global family. As another concept that you've given us, Karen, a global majority. These are formations that not only give us everywhere, it allows us, when it is us, some specific kind of where, to have leverage. There is no Black American nativist argument that, when it has been expressed before, has made any progress without the direct relationship, whether those people in the country, in the United States, knew it or not, without a direct relationship to Black internationalism. There's no Brown versus Board of Education, which, you know, I don't know is necessarily advancement, but there's no Brown versus Board of Education without the post-World War II international decolonization movement, and the United States scared as hell that they were getting ready to get left out of their continuing advancement project. That's why you heard Cedric passing very quickly to the School for the Americas, the place in Georgia where they train military leaders to take governments out. So please understand, yeah, I think that enough, but they couldn't afford to be seen around the world as just punching black people in the face in the United States, not when the majority of the world doesn't look like white people, and they, along with their European partners, are trying to get a grip on who's going to run the world for the next several generations after World War II. That's what the United Nations was about. That's what the World Bank and the International Money Fund, the so-called Bretton Woods organizations are about. I mean, this isn't conspiracy. It's not theory. Take theory off. It is a conspiracy, but it's not a conspiracy in the sense that people dismiss it. People who don't read much, but maybe get a hold of a meme or two, or like comedians and think they understand. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about conspiracy in the sense of another C word with the same root as, well, not the same root, but we're talking about collusion. Collusion, the same kind of collusion that would lead a rather rough-hewn looking person like Bill Belichick to, because he didn't pay attention and focus long enough to realize which Brian he was texting, tell the black Brian a message that he was really intending for the white Brian to say, well, I've talked to the white people who, you know, we've all colluded, and they've given you the job. And then the black Brian was like, oh, wow, this is great. Wait, I effed up. Yeah, you effed up, baby. And if if Flores' lawsuit survives the motions to dismiss and they get to the discovery stage, as KRS-One said, we're gonna find out whose AWS is the blackest. Because guess what? Under oath, you sworn testimony, probably the first question after how you feeling this morning, Brian Flores' lawyer is gonna ask is, Belichick, who are you talking about? Oop. See, that's called collusion. You understand? That's why Kurt Flood couldn't get a job after St. Louis Cardinals decided, oh, wait, no. Once we got a contract, we own you. So, you know, ain't gonna be no free agency. Why? So if you think, we're not gonna trade you and ain't nobody else gonna make no noise. Or collusion is what they did to Colin Kaepernick, except they paid him. He didn't go back to the league, and he's going off to do these other things, which are all very positive and important. But see, in Flores' case, Flores like, somebody got to come punch y'all in the face. So collusion is a conspiracy. We talk about collusion. That's what Sid talking about. Because if you don't think that Bolsonaro, the so-called Trump of Brazil, except he worse, because they really got power in the government. If you don't think he's not on the phone every day with not just Trump administration, but the Biden administration as well, differently a little bit, because you got soft white nationalism and you got white nationalism. Shout out to Joe Biden for helping giving us Clarence Thomas when you would chair the Judiciary Committee, but that's a whole nother thing, domestic politics. My point is this: they're always talking all the time. And when you mention Palestine, you understand there will be no comment on Palestine in the United States of America from the government or any corporations, anything like this. Why? Because they're colluding. It is collusion. Collusion. Let us get on the same page on fundamental things, and we can go out front and argue with each other for the people who believe, like they believe in WWF wrestling, that this is a real argument. But behind closed doors, we have colluded. You're talking about collusion. So ADOS, FBA, Indigenous, please understand that while you may wrap yourself in the flag and say they owe us and let the other people worry about themselves, the they you talking about is a they. And it don't stop at the Pacific and Atlantic and the Canadian and Mexican borders, friends. You don't understand how international politics works. And if you say you do and continue to hold that position, well, at that point, you know, I pity the fool that falls in love with you, because y'all done fall in love with America. I'm so sorry.
That you brought that up. I want to bring in another brilliant mind. She is a class member, but she's also the host of the Lurie Daniel Favors show on Sirius XM, 10 a.m. Eastern. Oh, and she is the director of the Center for Law and Social Justice
Congratulations.
at Evers College
That's
in
right.
Brooklyn, New York. Hi, Lurie.
Lurie.
Hi.
Hi. What an honor, man. What an honor. Unfortunately, my doorbell literally just rang because my plumber, who is 2 hours late, just decided to arrive. I suspect, Dr. Carr, it is a conspiracy to keep us from being.
Yes, but we know as the old folks say, the devil is a liar. So we got
So I have to bow out because I have a flood also happening, but I could not.
Go ahead, you been. Thank you, Lurie. It's so good to see you. We'll talk again though.
But I will say this, Dr. Carr, one, blessings to you and Ashe to our newest beloved ancestors. But I also just wanted to say one of the other challenges that we have here is a lack of realization that not only are they, but they have a 400-year history of proactively working together, planning. And then when the plan that they try to get together don't work, they come back and they have an open meeting room where they come back and try it again and try to figure out the next plan. And then if that plan succeeds, they take the benefits that they got from that plan and say, remember what we learned in this plan B? Let's plan C. We can't get on the same page about a menu together. I gotta run. I gotta flood. Love y'all.
Love you, sis. Love you. Yes.
All right. Bye,
wow. She dropped the bars right there. That's what they do.
If y'all not listening to Lurie 10 a.m. and she'll do it like the fastest mouth in the West. Like she gonna drop 15 million thoughts in 1 minute.
She just did it.
She did that.
She did that. And an educator, because we started talking about educating. Thank you. And congratulations. They finally made the right choice to get her.
They did. She's about that life. And she was gonna share, some things that she learned in class because she brings them to me, and I always get texts during the class from her. So I wanted her to come in today, and I'm sorry she's got a flood. But let me welcome it.
We'll do it. We'll do it again. We'll get it together.
Okay. All right. So, but since we're gonna tie this nice bow around, because again, the evolution of this thing from can I record to a whole ass in class that has evolved into now narrative in Nubia, which is one of the best spaces that I've ever been in. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow with Dr. Senyata Amen. But she's bringing some people, but you brought her. So, you brought her, and then we got the Metanetra class that's going to be next Tuesday, not this Tuesday, with Dr. Mario Beatty in Nubia. That's kicking off. We're going to learn some hieroglyphics before we head over to Egypt together so that we could read ourselves. But this brother is to me the elder statesman within Nubia. He runs he brings a lot of wisdom, and he drops a lot of knowledge and has me watching some documentaries that I hadn't planned on watching. So I appreciate him, and his book game is tight too. And since we got that international connection, let me welcome Mr. Az.
Man, Az, what's up, man?
Dr. Carr.
Greg, man, you got the shelf arranged, brother. I see you. You got the first lead going on.
I had to. Look, I had to do something because
you did it, man. Hey, look, I got to join the blood and bronze joint. You, I see it. Yes.
I need to talk to you about this book, Paddy Doherty. We read chapters 1 and 2 and 8 and 9 in Clubhouse. I read the whole book in Clubhouse.
Of course, that's what you do.
And then we talked about reparations. Oh my God. Oh my God. Dr. Carr, before I get to that, let me say thank you. You are my first Black teacher in my life.
Whoa. You mean beside family? You mean
outside of my family?
Yes.
You and Professor Hunter are my first.
Because I had the blessing to see your family, man. Your parents, yes. But yes.
Outside of my family, you're my first Black teacher in the United. And I'm in London, and I was born here, and I went through the university system like my dad. And you're my first Black teacher. If I could have, I did mechanical engineering. I did a master's degree in IT in distributed computer. If I could have done an Africana course. Man, if I could have done an Africana course,
oh man,
I don't know what. So I'm absorbing, everything I can. And one of the things that I know for a fact is people don't know how to articulate how they feel. We don't know how to articulate. We don't have the words, and we're having this kind of out of body experience because of where we live. Me here, you guys there, and we can see things. We can see things.
Yes. Yes.
One of my earliest teachers is this man here, Bruce Lee.
Really?
Bruce Lee.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
When I got to university, That was the first poster that I saw on the wall for joining the club, Wing Chun. So I'm a student of Wing Chun.
Are you?
Yep, I have been a student of Wing Chun my whole life. And
what?
This is his daughter's book, Shannon.
Yes.
As we're pouring clean glasses of water every week. And I listened to Bruce Lee. I watched all of his movies. I listened to his philosophy. Where do you get him? I keep asking people, who do you trust to give you the information that you will actually ingest and consume? And I keep telling them to watch Brother Roland Martin. I keep telling everybody, pay your $1, your $2, however much you can afford. If you want to get some learning, Julian Malveaux on a Monday with Dr. Omokongo.
Of course.
Yes. All of the people, and then of course yourself and Reese.
Reese, no question. Man, you built the bridges, Oz. You know you a Pan-Africanist.
Sir, that tweet you dropped out about Marcus Garvey, the petition, on the day you're at your mother's.
Oh, man, yeah. Of course.
Well, I signed it. I never signed anything to any president.
What you say? As you said. Hey, I'm grateful, man. I mean, because again, I mean, our elder wants it, our Baba wants it. I mean, it's okay, brother, because you can't. I mean, Garvey, you know, as you know, because he, of course, when he made transition, he was there.
Yes,
they were there in London. Yes. I mean, just living kind of like hand to mouth, still fighting with the UNIA, man, and had the strokes but as I mean. One of the things, many things, man, I love and respect about you, man, in addition to just being a world-class intellect and a deep Pan-Africanist, man, committed, is that you make it your business to, like Cedric was saying, you know, we don't make the connections, we have to make the connections. You embody the connections, brother. You embody the connections, and you find time to do it. I am convinced that they can't know or suspect who you are in this space. I mean, I know here across this little strip of water between us that you know your presence, your being attuned to how these things resonate anywhere we find ourselves is not only been instructive to me, it is invaluable because it gives us a model of how to be with each other, brother. And I just tell you, man, yes, of course, and thank you. I mean, thank you. This is and I'm right with Karen. You are elder. You at the center of that, brother. It's a different thing now, man. It's a different thing.
Karen sent me a message this morning and on Twitter, and she said, "Can I come in?" And I said, "What? Of course I can come in. How can I not come in and join? How can I not be in class and be in class? How can I not?" No.
Well, that's another thing. You don't have no clock over there because we just all you act like.
What time is it in London?
Time here now is it's 8:20 p.m. Right?
Okay. So, all right. And I was just curious because you know the connection to have London, Brazil, for me it makes our world so much smaller. I feel like so much part of a collective when we're all hearing these voices. How did you find in class?
Good question.
You know what? I had been watching Roland when he was on in his old studio, and I've seen Dr. Carr was there 1 or 2 times, and I can't. You know what? It all blurs into George Floyd. It all blurs at last, in 20th of May 2020.
Oh yes.
For whatever reason, I found episode 37 in class because I didn't start from number 1, and when I found episode 1. Then I went back and I watched everything in about a couple of days.
Whoa!
And I was commenting and I was literally. And since then, I've been with Roland every night. I've been, in class every day, every Saturday. Dr. Zinyate, if I can. So for me, it's like me going back to school again, just to learn the things. Wow! To kind of see how clearly I understand where I sit. And you know what's happening here in the UK just a little bit.
it's not nearly enough. That's what I'm saying. Man,
it's pure the stupidity here. We got hungry children. It's stupidity. There's no other word to describe it. It's stupidity. But because of their stupidity, they don't, as you said, Dr. Carr, they don't mind crashing the country.
No,
they don't care, right?
They don't care.
They don't care about the the ordinary people. So for me to be able to join some dots, I'll shout out to Gina Roberts for this.
Oh
book,
yes,
because Gina put this book up on Nubia, and then when, as you know, how the British Empire was being constructed.
Yes,
they have their children born there in India, send them to Sandhurst Military School in the UK,
right,
and then send them to go and do death and destruction in Nigeria. And
that's right.
So Paddy Doherty, he's spoken to an Indian economist. 45 trillion is the amount of money that the British government owes India in reparations. 45 trillion. It's a societal altering sum of money, and that's just India.
That's right. That's right. A societal altering.
And he mentioned another gentleman at Connecticut University, Thomas Kramer. He's done a study for reparations to African Americans. The task is impossible to calculate.
No, it is impossible. Yes.
And so I could talk about that with more offline, because he's got a figure, but he's got a document which I want to share with you guys, and we can talk about, because I'm going to have a discussion about that on Clubhouse with some scholars, because we need to unpack it, because people don't understand.
Yes.
Haitians are owed reparations. I say this every single day. I'm glad that's all said there. We don't know what's going on in Brazil because we don't speak Portuguese. We don't hear their voices enough.
That's right.
What's happening to brothers and sisters in France is inhumane.
Oh, no question.
It's inhumane.
No question.
So we need to lift people's voices up. We need to give them the courage, because sometimes it's the courage. That's why I like what Dr. Cornel West says. The indifference to evil is worse than the evil itself.
No question. There it is.
Remain silent.
Right. That's right.
When you see these kind of things happening and you say nothing, okay, then there's a problem.
That's right.
There's a problem. So I'm trying to share knowledge with people who want to listen.
That's right.
You can take a horse to water. It doesn't have to drink the water.
Nope.
It doesn't have to drink the water.
Nope.
But I will offer you that water. I will always offer you the water. That's an Igbo thing. Have you eaten? You say it all the time, Dr. Carr. African tradition. Have you eaten? Why not eat? If you eat, everybody should vote the same way. Right?
That's right. Well, but if you lead a horse to water, and you yourself are a horse, and you take a drink, that water, that horse may then follow you. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, our people like, go drink. Hey, wait, I ain't see you drink. Wait, are you even a horse? I mean, our people trust is what you say. Trust, you build trust.
And I hear you when you're talking about the ADOS people and the FBAs, and there's some.
And I'm not mad at it.
It's even worse than Dr. Carr.
Oh,
it's even worse than
I didn't want to give them any
pleasure. We're not living in that space. We building.
We're not. And that's why I'm happy that I'm here. Because Karen, every time you drop a video with one of your hosts and your guests, I'm like, who's Karen got today? And I'm like, this is great. This is great knowledge. I'm loving it. I'm telling you, I'm loving it. So you two are my first Black teachers in my life.
Oh,
both of you.
Him more than me, but Oz, your interaction in Nubia makes my heart warm, because that space was created for just what you guys do every day, and it makes me know it's not even been 6 months that we may not have the 400 years of the interaction that Lurie talked about, but in 6 months we've been able to do something that I only envisioned, and now I see come to fruition, and it's because you brought your brick and everybody in there brought theirs.
And it's not just me. I want to shout out to Jermaine as well in Nubia. Jermaine, that young man, is just dropping some links to Professor Gerald Horn all the time.
Yes,
Shepherd and Garrick, and there's just so many brothers and sisters.
Garrick.
Always building, and when I just got so many browser tab open, just trying to find how I'm going to bring the knowledge back to it, because we just need to know just the right things. Yes. And then we can, as you said, drop a breadcrumb and then let people go off and then do the research. And I want to do a bit more writing on Nubia, and I'll drop some links in Twitter or wherever. That's what I want to do. So
let's talk. We got the hub too, so we got many outlets.
Okay.
My father's house is many mansions. I'm just saying we got ways to get things done. All right, Oz, thank you. Love you.
Respect to you, Dr. Carr. Thank you so much, and I'm glad I know you. And because of you, I know your mother. And may she rise like Ra and find her ancestors. And I'm really happy for you guys. Thank you so much for bringing me in. Thank you, Karen.
All right. We've gone longer than we've ever gone, but that's okay. It needed to be. Okay. Is it possible? Because Lurie's back. Because I want to just come full circle, as we finish out 100, we have so much more to do.
Oh yeah, we got everything. We got everything to do.
And I want to, kind of focus on what happens next, because Lurie dropped the whole stink bomb and then left about the 400 years. So
you had to make sure nothing flooded out. Did they get
right?
you straight, sis?
Right, sis?
I'm good.
That's what we needed. We needed that. We needed to know that first.
Karen, it's funny because when you say that, what we're doing here is different. What I was putting in the chat here is the fact that it's like going from a McDonald's diet where you've been raised on McDonald's or a colonized diet your entire time. When you first eat a salad, you're like, ew, where my, my big fry? I need fries. Where's the grease? What you want me to eat? This rabbit food? What is this?
Right.
And so once you have curated and decolonized your diet, and you are able to take in foods that are healthy, not just because they're healthy, but because you have trained your taste buds to enjoy the taste of healthy foods after being raised on junk all the time.
Yes.
Narrative is like the decolonization kitchen, and the content that's coming out of there is teaching us to change our appetite for something that we can believe in. Right. I'm listening and reading to the book Free Water, Amina Lukman Dawson. And there's a section in there where one character says to the other character who can't work the sling. He's newly freed. He's with the Maroons. He's trying to work the sling. He's scared. He's still traumatized. And she said, you got to believe you can hit something. And for a lot of us, we got to just believe.
You got to believe
the information and the data to support the idea that we can win. And when I said that before I had to run to the door, what I would have finished by saying was that while they were able to plan in open lit rooms and have open, free flowing conversations, we had to whisper.
Right.
Because we could be killed for trying to have these conversations.
Right.
But now, we still have that. And so as a survival skill, we would meet out in the woods. We would talk very, very quietly. We would have survival skills that would allow us to navigate the space that we were in. As we're trying to be free, I feel like we have to let go of the survival skills that were required for us to endure enslavement and cultivate a new set of survival skills that will allow us to thrive as free people. And so being able to openly plan is a luxury, right? Being able to have a narrative space, that's a luxury. Our ancestors, they didn't have that. They weren't able to sit down and have a Maroons medicine cabinet where we could learn all the meaning of the foods and how to prepare it. We had to teach quietly in the kitchen and give them some sort of food and then give us something else. So we have the ability to plan openly and have that space. And that's why what Karen, what you and Dr. Carr and all of the brains behind this have done is created an institution that gives us the knowledge to adapt our culture to be what free people need when we have really been sustaining ourselves off of a culture that allowed enslaved people to make it through. And so that I have to say on 100 episodes, thank you. Thank you. Because, Karen always says she was spending 7 years tilling that soil on them airwaves and getting the appetite prepared. To be able to come in at this point, when all of the work of changing the appetite has already been prepared, and then to have platforms that you offer to all of us to be able to take that information and soar, to take that new curated appetite for loving our people and believing unapologetically that we can win and soar, that's a legacy. And I'm so grateful.
Oh, I say, no, I'm grateful too, Lurie. I'm grateful too. Let me ask you, sis. Because you've been doing this work in various ways and formations now, and you have for quite some time, you have a lot of momentum of memory, not only of things that work and things that don't work. What has been your experience, and then how does that feed your vision of how we think about the question of access, for example? I think about the things that have been most influential in my life in terms of these kind of conversations we've had. I love that kind. That's beautiful. The question of decolonizing the kitchen, decolonizing our tongue, decolonizing our minds. And they're often things that are overlooked by people who, are in the spaces that we have found ourselves in more often than not, the universities, media places, where there's a form of almost cultivating a sense of apartness, even among ourselves, and then but many things that have had the most influence on me came from the people who were the most overlooked or disregarded by people from those spaces. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about access, because I think for me, one of the last thing I'm thinking about now, one of the things this process has done is really, I think one of the things really been most important for me, and thinking about my people, and I'm sure the same is true for you and your people, all of us really, is that the idea is that we have removed this question of accessibility, or at least that's what we're always trying to do. So the people just come into the space. But what, I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
You mean accessibility to spaces that we create, or accessibility to spaces that give us greater access to whiteness?
No, the first. And not only that, the way people feel when they come into the spaces is kind of like they're invited. They're inviting spaces. I mean, I think about your work at Medgar Evers. I've always, I mean, and maybe that's a good example. From the first time I walked in Medgar Evers, you know, the energy, and by the energy, I don't even mean administration. I just mean the people.
Right.
Brooklyn. I mean, you know, people, and
right.
This should be like, this is the HBCU. I don't take the labels off. I mean, I would love to work in this place. You know what I'm saying? But then we understand that doesn't co-equal the structure. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just wondering if you have anything, because in this virtual space over these last couple of years, of course, we're seeing, of course, you do it every day on the airways. You come, I mean, people will tune in and say, "Oh God, thank God, I'm not crazy, and I'm learning, and I don't feel like they're telling me, okay, this is gonna close off, or there's something I'm not gonna understand." I don't know. I'm just wondering. Maybe I'm not even here. I don't know if you have any thoughts about any of that.
So I feel like culturally we pride spaces that are inaccessible. Like we give them
That's right. You just drop bombs.
If you think about it, Dr. Carr, like
no, Greg, please. Everybody be calling me Dr. Carr. You know, that's never been a thing. I mean, but wow, go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm interrupt. Let me
listen. My mother raised me with some autopsy. Okay, this Dr. Carr today. But when it comes to when it comes to things that we place value on, we tend to more highly value spaces that we cannot access. And I've had a couple of guests on recently who have talked about sort of an African-centered way of viewing the world as opposed to a Eurocentric way of viewing the world. And one is integrative, and the community is the status of the community is the barometer for success, and that's in the Africanity approach. But in the Eurocentric approach, the status of the individual is the determination of success. And with that comes this notion that if it is exclusive, if it is not available to everybody, it's got to be more valuable. I think that's a very Eurocentric approach to institutions that distribute knowledge. It's a very Eurocentric approach to who has a right to knowledge. And when you are coming from an African-centered space that says, no, we all sit in a circle because a circle indicates that we are all able to learn from each other. Yeah, I may technically be the facilitator, but I'm a facilitator of knowledge that we are all co-creating. Right, yeah. And that is an African approach, I think, to information that I feel like has been very well replicated in this virtual space. So it's not that it's the fact that it is so accessible now that we have this new appetite is part of what makes it so attractive. Whereas in this other education paradigm, that, you know, that version you're jailbreaking, it's the exclusivity itself that gives it a greater sense of power and a greater sense of desirability.
You speaking to my heart. No, seriously, that's so powerful. I mean, as somebody, like say, we both work at these educational institutions. I love the way you evoked the fam, because, you know, these are people who don't discriminate. It is so, you just gave us all. I know I'm sitting here scribbling, and I know it's being recorded, and we're gonna go back and look. But I mean, I like writing it as you're saying. That's the language that speaks to the sentiment. It's almost like, I mean, the reaction side, of course, it feeds that, like, oh really, this your joint right here, tear it all down. So yeah, there's that feeling. You know, but then the other side is because we are trained to hold up those of us who they select and put out in front of us, and then too many of us go for that. It's like, no, don't do that, because, like, say, I mean, earlier when Cedric said about Black women, you know, I think about all these elders. Those are the professors. I mean, you want to put the language of professor and teach, that's them. How do we not look at them? Because we've been trained. I'm sorry, I'm not even gonna keep rambling. Lurie, you teaching this afternoon, sis.
That is the highest honor of my day to hear Dr. Carr say something of that nature. But Dr. Carr, I would say this: even that is a part of that skill set, though, that survival skill that I mentioned of valuing, because part of being able to successfully, I think, navigate the enslavement experience was learning how to center whiteness in such a way that you always made them comfortable.
Absolutely.
Like that was just, and that is a skill set we still have today. The better you're able to do the thing and debase your voice and make yourself more palatable, the more likely you are to have academic and, quite frankly, professional success. Like if you're able to speak that language and deculture yourself in that way. And so that is a survival skill that still exists to this day. Like, quite frankly, those of us who are Black professionals owe a lot more to our success, to our ability to engage in that level of code switching, no shade, than to our actual intellectual capacity. So there's that. But the idea of valuing what others have designed or have deemed to be most valuable, that is also a part of that survival skill. That is also a part of the survival skills that we brought with us off of plantations that, quite frankly, is still very valuable and important for those of us who do not have a vision of jailbreaking those chains, jailbreaking the institution, jailbreaking all of those spaces that have been intentionally designed to exclude us, that we keep trying to manipulate, contort, and squeeze our bodies to fit in just so. I was slide on in, and you'll see me, you'll love me, you'll value me in a way that you've been taught to never see me, love me, or value me.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much in this conversation that relates to that pathology. I mean, that last thing you said, I think about Ngugi writing in Something Torn and New, where he's, he's actually writing about Chinua Achebe going to the village. This kid who's going to these white institutions goes to the village to get the sacred python so he can take it back to the school and show these white people that he has a culture. But he doesn't realize you took the image, you took the culture from your people to go show it to white, and they don't care to begin with. But then just before that, as you talk about this question of how we form ourselves and how we think about ourselves and how we had to have the code switching. You said no shade, so I'll just say, I'll say shade. Code switching is not a skill that should become part of your self-image. I'm good at that. Yeah, you do understand that foolishness. It's so funny that I was just looking at this book on African American language, and they talk about African American language system. And they said one of the things is they say we're not calling this Ebonics, but it was no shade toward it. But it was no shade toward Ebonics. What they said was those who come with the concept of Ebonics since the early 70s are saying they're making the argument, and they say these are Black linguists. They're saying that not only don't we discount the argument, we agree with it in principle, and we support that, but this isn't that. They said the Ebonics folk who created the term ebony phonics are saying that whether you speak French, Spanish, Dutch, English, Portuguese, whatever languages they forced into our mouths, we absorbed into our African languages and used common grammar, common phonology to transform all of them. So the word Ebonics literally means this is our self-determining language. And if you speak Ebonics, you can understand things in all these other languages. They're making the distinction that we're talking about African-American English. So where our debate is on creolization, and it's important work, but AAE is not Ebonics. The difference is between you're on the periphery of, or a subsidiary of, or in conversation with this social structure. The Ebonics people are like English, French, Spanish, whatever. These sounds and vocabulary we absorbed into us. And the reason I'm raising that is because as you were talking, you're unfolding this just immediately before that, as you say, we developed these survival languages, these survival tools, these survival skills. And it made me think about how Carter Woodson sees what's coming almost. And he's like, look, I'm writing about, what I'm saying, what's going on. And I'm telling y'all, and he would never say this. I'm sure if he was here, he'd probably slap me in the back of the head, but I'm just going to say it this way. Jim Crow, in all its terrible reality, there are elements of it that are a gift. We still have control of our institution. Now, we could just solve this class problem and this. We could have a force. When he writes that chapter, Understand the Negro, we could, do you understand? We're already trapped here. Y'all are trying to get out. Stop. Turn back and look at each other. And then Du Bois, of course, he gets it for real. And then, of course, he just leaves because he says Negroes can't win because you're not going to get the point that. And in 1960, when Du Bois says they're going to change these laws. And when they change these laws, here's what's going to happen. The kids are not going to go to school.
Yep.
They're going to take and he said, y'all going to have to now answer the real question. And the real question isn't the laws. The real question is race and culture. And so integrating, people say integration destroyed us. It didn't change segregation, but it allowed these structures to absorb a layer of the class that was trying to get in anyway, leave everybody else trapped. And now, even unlike before, you got contempt for yourself. There wasn't this level of self-contempt in Jim Crow. I just wonder how we,
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. Yeah, I was asking an educator, and Karen, I don't know how long do we got? I know I jumped in all late.
Time.
Like, we'll because we could be doing and
I only popped in because I had a vision, and this was it. So I felt like the chemistry, and Lurie, I talked to you about filling in for me before, because you're my heir apparent. I'm gonna say that publicly. Wow. I want to sit in my seat.
It's all kind of news breaking today.
Yeah, no, I'm just, you always, I mean, this is the problem. We never in the last 40, 50 years, there's no succession plan, right?
That is a huge problem.
And it's not even about, being here I got things that I want to do, and I want to make sure that this particular job continues, right? So I'm always looking for somebody to sit in my seat, always. But it's alchemy, right? So it's chemistry. Definitely you and I have a particular kind of rhythm. It's unlike anything else I've ever seen and I've had with anybody else. And maybe it's because we're born a couple of days apart, or we understand each other at a visceral level. But Lurie has an energy.
No question.
And it's that law degree, it's that army brat, it's the Jamaican, it's the, it's all of the things.
Yes.
And it's just like, I don't know why it's not breaking through, but the world needs to know this woman. She's freaking brilliant.
Yes.
So I'm like,
no question.
So watching y'all, I'm just sitting here like, wow. Yeah, I see it.
You just kind of broke me a minute there, sis.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just, so time there'll be time.
Opening that's the good stuff, right? That's the opposite of broken.
I cannot. It warms my heart to hear.
Yeah.
And I receive, because my respect for you, Karen. I mean, and you know this. Like, I absolutely love you. I got called the other day. I was like, Karen, we've gone from talking and really in depth on a regular basis, at least once a week, for hours and hours and hours. So, but you mean the world to me. This space means the world to me. Narrative and this institution and this potential means the world to all of us. And to hear you say that means the world to me.
But this can only continue when we pass the baton and we make sure that we pour into people things, and everybody, it was warm. The other night, somebody, what was it? Senyata's class, maybe it was yours, maybe it was office hours. Someone said, it was office hours. A young lady came in and she said her mentor, she was on her mentor's account and she was talking about, her mentor. And I was like,
from Florida.
The way she was talking about, this woman who's pouring into her, I was like, this has to be the blueprint across the board. If you have something to give it. Build the next person who's going to run further than you. Give them all of the things they need so that we can collectively get to where we're supposed to get to. But a lot of us hoard because we want to be the special magical Negro. Even among Negroes, we want to be the only one doing the thing. We want the accolades. We want all of the attention for ourselves. And we never build the institution for the next person to come in, for the next person, the next one. And it should be 5 next people, not just one.
More than we can kill. No question.
So I just want to say thank you for popping in and fulfilling what I knew would be the thing. And now here we are, episode 100, but there's so much more happening.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
We gotta have this conversation. We gotta just have extended form. I'm serious. This is
I imagine, and I'm gonna hopefully, I don't know when Lurie has time between parenting and the whole thing that she's doing, but she should definitely teach something in Nubia narrative, some sort of class. But we'll talk off mic about that.
We'll talk. Love you guys.
Love you. That was wow. Thank you, Karen. That was a gift on top of gifts.
I didn't know, but I knew. So, like, one of the things you have unearthed in me is to trust in the DNA, the ancestors that I rock with, and to know you know, and to remove, you know, my willfulness, because, you know, we both bulls, so we're gonna put our will on a thing and then just let things be. You know, I was just talking about Sunyata the other day, and you know, early on she was, you know, she was in and she wasn't, and I wasn't sweating it, because if you're supposed to be here, you're gonna be here. And that's just, I'm like, not chasing anybody, I'm not sweating anybody. You're supposed to be here. Your spirit will let you know if this is something you want to do, and it's not for everybody. You know, some people have a very singular self, you know, centered way in which they want to move in the world, and that is fine. This is a collective. We're about building the world we want to live in, because we need to have that world for our survival. This is about our survival. They out here killing us indiscriminately, busting in people's homes while they're sleeping at 6 o'clock in the morning. Breonna Taylor minding her business, Botham John minding his business, eating up. You know, like, there's no place safe. You think your home is safe under the blankets at 6 o'clock in the morning, you shouldn't be dead right now. And yet we're gonna hashtag Amir Locke, you know, as we celebrate Trayvon Martin's birthday today. You know, so we're up against something. At the same time, I'm confident that we have all of the tools we need. So
yeah, we do, and I can't thank you enough. Again, I mean, we can end it this, and we like to say we gone way long now. But that's okay. I mean, because
it is.
You know, I think about, again, I standing there in the vestibule of Kent Avenue Baptist Church on Thursday evening in Nashville, as folks are coming in, seeing people I hadn't seen in decades, people who remember, you know, we all have that experience, people who remember things about you that you don't remember about yourself. The brother who his father had the little store across from where the first house that I remember living in on Lawrence Avenue in Nashville, before we, you know, went to the place we have now, and who remembers when my mother was sitting outside with me, and then sitting outside with my brother and me teaching us. I don't remember that because I wasn't school age. My mother's always been a teacher, but he remembers, and he was the son of the brother who ran the place. Some of y'all from the South know something about a little concoction of leavings that is considered a delicacy called souse. I know what souse is, right? And I know we know what scrapple is in Philly and this kind of thing, hog head cheese. Man. I'm talking about souse meat. Y'all know about that souse meat. But anyway, they had one little side of the building. The other side was a beauty parlor, and the sister who ran that went to Kane Avenue and went to school with her daughter. And I think about standing there and seeing these elders, seeing these age mates, seeing so many others, and understanding that none of us comes into this world alone or by ourselves. We were created by two people, and then none of us becomes who we are by ourselves. And I'll end with this in gratitude and thanks to you, Karen, for this, Professor Hunter, for this space, because everything that that you're urging us to do, visioning us to do, bringing us in to do, that we're doing collectively, but that you, with your unique set of gifts, have the capacity and not only that, tempered by the character to say, yeah, I'm in, I want to, and then up to and including the notion of what, as the ancient Egyptians would say, medu yawu, training your replacement. That is the purpose of education, to train your replacement so that they keep it going and put their thing on, and then train their places, as Frankie Lane said about my mama. You can't see her, but you see me. This kind of thing. As you have done that, it has fed my spirit, because my utter contempt for our oppression, which I share, I think, with all of us, we all have that. It has given me a space to not only diminish that, because that too should never be at the heart of us. That thing will corrode you if that's the thing you live for, to fight this system. No, that's going to corrode you. You have to get that off you. See, the thing that feeds you, that's deep within you, can be there. This space, my real feeling, and this is a feeling that was born in me, bred in me by my mother, my father, my family, my community, those Black people who loved us and nurtured us, even when we didn't necessarily know that's what they were doing. The real feeling is, I could summarize it in a word, one single word, and that one single word is what you have managed in your brilliance and genius and gifts to provide a space for us to do, and that is everybody. Everybody. Well, we need to everybody. Well, we can know everybody, but we need everybody. Because when y'all see me, and when you see Karen, you see Lurie, when you see Az, when you see Cedric, when you see Adjoa, when you see everybody. You see everybody. And for me, if it ain't everybody, it's nobody. That's the turn over the table part. But I gotta get past that. You know what I'm saying? You gotta get past that, because everybody is the thing that's deepest in us as human beings. We just want everybody. You shot somebody? Hold on. Yeah. Give voice to that. Why? Because you are preventing everybody. I just try and go to work. No, you shouldn't even want that DoorDash job. Brianna, why are you working all them damn hours when you know you want to go to school? Because you done built a system where everybody don't get education. Everybody doesn't have to. No, everybody. Everybody. So anyway, thank you for making this everybody. Thank you.
So Uriah sent me a 1-minute clip. I'm just gonna have to post this. I'm gonna post it. How it all began. Our first one. I don't know if I'm able to
okay.
The screen. I'm not able to share the screen. Uriah's.
You can't share.
It's only 1 minute. He's still.
Uriah's like the key master. He got to give permission on your own platform.
Right. Wait, hold on. Let me see if I can do it this way. Just Windows Chrome tab. Where is it? Window. I suck at this right now. Is it the mail? No. All right. I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna post it on Twitter. Thank you, Uriah. Though. Let me thank everybody.
I definitely want to see it. Oh, I should mention the other thing we talked about, Karen, at the joint, and it wasn't just South Meet. We were sitting there talking. Anyway, I won't even go into the story about my mama and her adopted grandmother, who became my mother, who became my adopted mother, lived across the street from us. We grew up, but they had a brother. His name was Mr. A. Banks. We was trying to figure out what A. Banks' real name was Thursday night. Well, A. Banks, what's Mr. A. Banks? Mr. A. Banks used to drive over Joe Johnson Avenue in North Philly, North Nashville, and he would fill up a jug with brown water. I said, "You talking about sulfur water?" And we was like, "Yeah, old folks used to drink sulfur water. It says it's sulfur water, right? It says good for it's got minerals." So my cousin, Uncle Virgil's oldest son, Virgil Jr., who looked just like his daddy now. I mean, these cats, man. Virgil came over standing. What y'all talking about? We talking about sulfur water. And we was like, you know what that was, right? What? Industrial waste. See, the plant, and some of y'all know about sulfur water. Black people would get this water. It would be coming out of factories. They had spigots, and they said, "What's got rich in minerals?" It's not mineral, it's rust. Do you understand that this stuff came out the machined? Any group of people that would take this kind of poison. And Mr. A. Banks used to stink from the inside. I loved him, but you couldn't go back there in that back room. Exactly, that's the face you would make. And Karen, look, I mean, many things I learned about you last year. I know one thing you do not like is them kind of odors. Your nose is so sensitive. I mean, it's so funny how many times you will describe something in terms of its smell. You say, "Hey, that smell." This is a person whose nose.
Seen right now. I feel so seen.
My God! But I'm saying we are from a group of people who has been forced to create turn those kind of things into something that, and if we can survive the poison we have consumed because we didn't have any options to get to the point where Sunyata Amin, where Lurie Favors, where Karen Hunter has brought, where Cedric Miles have. We ain't got to drink no more sulfur water.
No more. Clean, fresh, clean water. That's it.
Water. Yes. Woo, man.
On that note, Dr. Carr, again, thank you. I can't thank you enough, Adjoa. We got to always honor the introduction, but then also make sure that we make way for the next. And yes. I know they're in the chat, so somebody else is going to be picking up the baton and carrying us to the next place. But I'm humbled to be here every Saturday with you, and I look forward to what's coming next.
I'm looking forward to what's coming up next. Get some rest. I'm probably gonna go ahead.
You need some rest. You've been watching you.
No. Shout out. I should shout out to the Hazes, to the Carrs, to the community, because I promise you that love is not unique. That's that love y'all show us over these last couple of weeks is the love we show ourselves. So everybody who makes transition, everybody, please understand how much of an honor it is to be part of a community where the love you show to us is the love we show to each other. We're teaching each other, y'all. And I want you to know how much that means to my family. By my family, I just mean the one that I was born into in blood and experience. But now that family includes all of us. Thanks to you. You, Karen Hunter. Thank
everybody.
You. Yes, all of us, yes. But we here talking like this in this format. You, Carr, you, Reyes, but you, thank you. I love you. Thank you so much.
See you next Thursday. See you in office hours.
Yeah, office hours. See you Monday.
And see some of y'all tomorrow with Maroon Medicine Chest. See some of
definitely.
y'all in Nubia, and definitely on Monday. And
hey, y'all bring y'all bricks now for real, because part of this is, we gotta, everybody who needs to be is being, but we get to make choices. We have to make choices. The people who are fighting us have institutions in place, not because they built them, they inherited them. But the people who started them, as 400 years ago, or 300 years ago, or 200 years, 150 years, they made some deliberate choices. They were coercive. They were violent. We're building this out of generosity, love, out of freedom. Unfortunately, until we get that feeling so deeply engendered that we do the thing that is the right thing because we have had our diets altered, we often find ourselves more responsive to coercion. And that doesn't help. That doesn't help. It may look like it helps, but so come on, y'all. Let's continue to dig deep and get that Eve and bring it out. And let's bring our people. Let's bring our people. We're building something where they can't touch us, because ultimately they can't touch us. And ultimately they can't even touch themselves. We'd save them too, but that's stage 2. Stage 1 now is stage 1's us. Stage 1 gotta be us. We're team us, as you say. Love you.
Love you too.
Love you too.